hours to possibly discuss all of the things that took place over the weekend. There was so much stuff to talk about and get into. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810 to join us. Typically, we take phone calls on a Monday after the Chiefs game, but there is so much stuff to get into with the Royals in the postseason. We probably will not have time. Josh Kaiser, we'll talk with him coming up at about 11:30, 11:35 or so. Talk with him about this Royals team getting set for the Baltimore Orioles tomorrow, 3:08. Hopefully these O's ain't Royal again. We'll find out. Rocked my 2014 Royals winning the American League Championship Series over the Orioles shirt.
Strong.
10-year anniversary of We Own the Pennant shirts in 2014, just to bring back some of those good vibes of the Royals knocking off the O's. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Game 1, Reagans versus Corbin Burns. And then it'll be Lugo and Waka versus, more likely than not, Eflin and then Creamer for the Orioles. So we'll see how that whole series shapes up. We'll certainly talk a lot about that. The Chiefs 4-0 on the season. They knock off the Chargers. And it looks like a Pyrrhic victory for the Chiefs, unfortunately. We'll eventually get confirmation on Rashee Rice, but without confirmation, there's a little confirmation. Everybody's reaction, national media's reporting, Andy Reid's reaction at halftime, after the game, saying the same thing. We'll wait to get the MRI, but it doesn't look good. It's not necessarily one of those to where, it doesn't look good, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. I had a terrible feeling when I saw the replay and saw what his knee did, and I'm like, yeah, that wasn't just a hyperextension. That thing went back into the left. It went, when Mahomes fell into his knee. And I was, at that point, like, man, can I exchange a loss right here, right now to the Chargers to get Rashee Rice back? And I would make that exchange right now, too. Even beating the Chargers, I would exchange it right now. 3-1 with a healthy Rashee Rice rather than 4-0 and Rashee Rice more than likely waiting for confirmation be lost for the season. You know why? Because we've learned from the Chiefs, it really doesn't matter in the regular season almost. Yeah, they are much more likely now being 4-0 to, they're in a better spot to get the number 1 seed. But as we saw last year, it's better to be healthy rather than to get the 1 or 2 seed. I mean, they had the 3 seed last year, and they went and won a Super Bowl with Kelsey getting a day off, with the team being relatively healthy last year through the postseason. Now, they did it with a skill position group that was now comparable to this one. I think you can make an argument like 23 or 24. What's a better skill position, group? We can get into that, certainly. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that, unfortunately, I think. Although, in the postseason, if Hollywood Brown comes back, then that is one hell of an addition that you did not have last year, getting that addition. And maybe that's the way the Chiefs will view it as, you know what, we'll take this victory. It gives you a better chance of being the number 1 seed, and then you get Hollywood Brown back. You'll have a full season of Xavier Worthy being integrated into the offense, fingers crossed, and hopefully in the postseason, you'll then move forward with Hollywood, Xavier, Travis Kelce, unfortunately more than likely not Rashee Rice. So it feels right now like a Pyrrhic victory to me. I'm glad they won, and we'll see how they adjust moving forward. But I have a feeling what we're going to be watching with this Chiefs team the rest of the way is going to look eerily similar to last year's Chiefs team. The hope and the excitement of this offense being back. We are back. We are getting the offense back, and that is not looking like it's going to be reality for this team. It looks like it's going to be a repeat of last year, which would be badass because that would be a repeat. Be 3 in a row Super Bowls if they repeat last year. But it looks like it's going to be a team that is going to have to try to score enough and the defense come up with stop after stop after stop. And this continuing to be a defensive team, defense getting the wins, while the offense figures some things out and tries to do enough in the game. And that's what they did. And look, they fell behind 10-0. And then they outscored them by 17 points. So you can view it a couple of different ways. This team continues to give the ball away. And it's interesting what happens and crazy what happens in the postseason for this team. Because last year they were minus 11 in the turnover differential. And then they went into the postseason and they were positive. Last year they dropped tons of passes. And then they went into the postseason and didn't drop any passes. This year, they're turning the ball over a lot. They're right back to giving it away. They had 4 games starting last year to this year in that, so 17, 21, 25 game stretch, 4 times. A 4-game stretch where they just didn't turn it over. Happened to be the 4 games where you go and win a Super Bowl. Something about this team that just, there's a difference there. But it is now a continuation of last year's regular season when they've been turning the ball over. That has to be better. The running game, I think, will have to be emphasized a little bit more. And, by the way, Kareem Hunt looked good. And I'm a little annoyed that I didn't spend more free agent dollars on my fantasy team to pick up Kareem Hunt. I was a little skeptical. I was a little surprised at how much somebody paid for him in our free agent dollars and budget. That I'm like, wow, you used half your budget on Kareem Hunt. But you know what? From all the running backs that might have been available, and people care about fantasy football, especially my specific league. There's at least 15 other people that care about my league. He looked good. And I don't know what the rotation's going to be moving forward until Pacheco gets back. If that's going to be Steele or Hunt. It should be Hunt.
I think he's a little lucky, and maybe Chiefs fans should consider themselves lucky that Steele fumbled. Because if Steele didn't fumble the football, I don't think you see much Kareem Hunt. And if we don't see much Kareem Hunt, we don't see the explosiveness that he provided in that game. At least I don't think we see it against the Chargers.
Well, it would have helped my my parlay, single game parlay, in which I hit 5 of 6 legs. The only one I didn't hit was Carson Steele, 30 rushing yards. That was a gimme.
Should have taken the under. Shockingly, the under was available, Jason.
Well, that's not the over-under was like 58 or something like that.
Then you really should have ripped the under if you thought he was only getting 30.
Yeah, but I was going with the easy one, right? I didn't want to take a chance on under 58, and then he had 70 last week. Wasn't going to take the under, and all of a sudden they're just running the ball. I'm like, what if a wide receiver goes down? Then they're really going to have to run the football. I mean, come on. So anyway, I'm with you. Kareem Hunt looked really good. And he's probably the guy moving forward because there's one thing Andy Reid will know about Kareem Hunt. One thing at minimum that will separate him from Carson Steele is that Carson Steele has one more fumble in his career than Kareem Hunt does in 4 games. So that dude ain't giving the ball away. If you're Andy Reid, I can hand it to Kareem Hunt and get yards, and he won't fumble. Or I can hand it to Carson Steele, and he may get the same amount of yards, but he's fumbled it twice already in 4 games. That is an easy decision for Andy Reid. I know he said after the game, that wasn't about Carson Steele. That was about the hot hand. All right, I just went with the hot hand, which makes sense because Kareem Hunt was the hot hand. He was picking up yards. He was reading the blocks well. He had a couple of jump cuts that set up a linebacker and then jumped to a different hole and picked up another 5 or 6 yards. Does Carson Steele do that? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe Carson Steele breaks a long one that Kareem Hunt didn't see. Who knows? I think it's a believable statement from Andy Reid. It's a defensible statement. It's a provable statement. Doesn't mean it's a true statement from Andy Reid. I think Kareem Hunt had the hot hand, and his hands ain't giving the ball away. And I think that's going to be the case moving forward. As long as Kareem Hunt's healthy, he'll be the guy until Isaiah Pacheco gets back because he ain't giving the ball away either. It was a bad run for Carson Steele. It's been a bad couple of carries. The fumble in the first game and the fumble yesterday, I think, ended a good portion of what his playing time could be for this team, assuming health.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that was – they gave him the next carry right after. You get the next carry. You put that fumble behind you, and we're going to put you behind us for this game.
That's right.
It's, hey, look, we're going to give you some confidence, and then you're immediately coming out of the game.
I won't take credit for this, but I'm also not going to give the person publicly credit because he didn't want credit publicly, but maybe Carson Steele's got those alligator arms.
Don't clap, Jack.
No,
don't.
Thank you. But that,
I need it to be a faint clap. Right
I'll tell you who gets credit in the commercial break.
Is it Dylan?
No. Dylan would take credit. You think the Chiefs said, hey, Carson, see you later, alligator. He's like, when can I get back in the game? They said, after a while, crocodile. That was Mick Schaefer, by the way. I will give credit to Mick. Mick said that. But I'll tell you the other one with the alligator. Exactly right. Thank you. That was the worst one. That was the one that was terrible. You went too far. The first one was
that
great.
was for Mick.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, I got
Yeah,
it.
that was the Mick. Yeah, the first one, he had alligator arms. Great, nice. That's awesome. It's a great line. Then Mick was like, oh.
Was that really him?
See you later, alligator.
The arms one? That was him, too?
No, it was not.
Oh,
I'll tell you in the break what it was. I told him, I was like, look, I'll give you credit. And he's like, no, I don't want credit. You can take it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm still not going to steal it. I'm just going to say somebody else had it. No
I
rice.
guess Carson steal it. Yeah.
Look at you. All right, so what do we think? No rice moving forward. Jack, you had a post-game reaction last night.
I did.
You had some callers that were wondering about what the Chiefs might do now with what we believe to be the likely result of this being confirmed today at some point of a torn ACL. What do they do moving forward now?
Well, I think you'd have to go into Monday with who you got right now. I don't see them making any significant move before the Monday night game against the Saints. But this does become a very interesting situation because you've gone from the offseason in which Xavier Worthy was your number 3, number 4 maybe. Now he's immediately thrust into the number 1 spot.
He was your number 4 target.
Yes.
I mean, he was your number 4 target in the season.
And I don't know how many teams around the NFL, and of course I'm putting the Chiefs in the category of their own. I don't know how many teams around the NFL could lose their starting running back, number 1 wide receiver, number 2 wide receiver, and still find ways to win football games. And I have confidence this team can win football games. But I said this last night. I think you do have to alter how you move the ball down the field now. You can't just say, well, let's run the same exact plays for Xavier Worthy that we did for Rashee Rice. You can't, because they're not the exact same wide receiver. You have to get a little bit more creative. However, if there's one coach to believe in and making this more creative, still getting production out of guys that are out there, it would be Andy Reid. So it's not all doom and gloom, but we also have to acknowledge the fact they have lost more skill players and more high-end players offensively than I think anybody in football right now. Unless I'm missing some team off the top of my mind right now.
Rams
right now.
Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
Okay, so there's 1, 2, but do they still have Kyron Williams?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah. But they don't have, well, although Parkinson's been pretty good, but Higbee's been injured.
Yeah, Higbee's been out.
But Higbee is not Travis Kelce, so, I mean, anyway.
Still,
but
yeah.
In
right.
the AFC, they have lost more than anybody.
Right, I mean, but that's the thing is that we're looking for that, and that's the name, and we're even saying, well, they lost their top 2, and although Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua is more of a loss than, well, I don't know, Rashee Rice, well, you know, it's more of a loss than Hollywood and Rashee Rice, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Those guys are amazing. But go ahead, Jack.
Well, my final point would just be, you know, this will likely be an offense that struggles to get going a little bit just because of what they're dealing with here. It's not that they're not capable, they're not talented enough, but all of a sudden in 4 games they've had to thrust certain guys into roles that they're not that comfortable with. We had a caller last night say, well, you know, Juju was able to do it in 2022, and it was, well, that was Juju 2 years ago. He's a different guy now, and this is a different team, and they're going to have to operate just a little bit differently because losing Rashee Rice is absolutely going to be felt at some point, if not every single game this season. Not to say they'll lose all those games. I still have confidence they're going to be a very good football team, but we have to acknowledge that this is going to be a very significant blow to the offense.
After Rashee Rice went down, Mahomes was 17 of 27, 205 yards and a touchdown, which is roughly a 100 quarterback rating. So it's not like the offense stopped at that point, and they scored 17 points from that point forward. Sterling, what do they do?
Yeah, Xavier Worthy's going to have to take a growing step here. And maybe it's not even Xavier Worthy. It's the fact that the Chiefs need to let him be who he is. We talked about it. We think he can do a lot more than just run these flies, these streaks. Although it's great, that 54-yard touchdown, don't get me wrong. But I thought the most impressive one was the end of the game to seal it. That little almost mesh route, the little crosser right there.
Looks like what they ran last week on 3rd and 2, that Travis Kelce ran the other over instead of Rashee Rice. Also Xavier didn't look around and say, I was going to run into somebody. It looks like almost the same exact play they ran on 3rd and 2 last week.
And it worked because no one can keep up with him, especially in man-to-man coverage. No one can keep up with him. So I think you're going to have to let Xavier grow up and let him run all the routes, at least the majority of the route tree now. That's number one. Number two, a larger dose of Justin Watson. Get ready. Justin Watson is a very good wide receiver 4. Get ready for wide receiver 2, Justin Watson. And then I think the big one is the actual role of Rashee Rice, that power slot. Early on, I think it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think it's Juju.
I don't think I'm thrilled by it. He's not been able to get open. This looks like more of the Juju we saw with New England than the Juju we saw a couple years ago. Sky Moore, I'm sorry. You might be the greatest guy out there. Dude, you had your opportunity.
Yep, that was it. That was kind of like Carson Steele. You've had an opportunity and you fumbled the football. Sky Moore, you had an opportunity and you dropped the ball.
Because this could be a role where he actually would have, I don't want to say thrived, but he would have had the most success. He's a slot receiver. He's a slot receiver, and your slot goes down. You could have easily said if Sky Moore made that catch, maybe you see an uptick in Sky Moore snaps, especially right there in the slot. You can't trust him anymore.
Yeah.
So I do think the Chiefs will look outside the box. Maybe it's a Deontay Johnson. Maybe it's even a Demarcus Robinson. Although I don't know how the Rams could potentially trade that guy when you have no other receivers healthy. But I think the Chiefs are going to have to look outside the box with a trade partner because right now, Justin Ross ain't going to be the answer. And whoever you have right now behind him, a.k.a. Sky Moore, he's not the answer.
No, Sky Moore had a chance, and he dropped the ball. That was 3rd and 2. That was 3rd and 2 on what was facing a 1st and 15 because of one of Jawan Taylor's false starts in the game yesterday. They're down 10-0, 1st and 15. They pick up 13 yards on a Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce play. 3rd and 2, Sky Moore's open and just drops the ball. And Mahomes put it on target. All right, that wasn't, Mahomes threw it way too high and Sky Moore should have come down with it, but that was kind of a tough. No, it was right in his hands, leading him to the sideline, catch it, and then, turn up, and you already had the first down just by simply catching it, but he dropped the ball. Not good enough. Juju Smith-Schuster's touchdown this year came on a play in which Rashee Rice went to the sideline, and Juju ran the Rashee Rice route. And he was open, and he caught the touchdown. I think that's the player that will, step up or be inserted into the Rashee Rice role unless they make a move of some sort, which, again, maybe they do, but I think the Chiefs may be looking at it and saying, survive this season, through the bulk of this season. We're 4-0 now, so if we survive this, then, hey, do we need to go out and trade for somebody, or is our trade acquisition Hollywood Brown? So let's get through this season. Juju can slide into the Rashee Rice role. Xavier Worthy getting more and more involved in the offense. Maybe you call up a Justin Ross and he's the X, and plays that spot, or at least fills in where Juju was. Juju moves into Rashee Rice's. Justin Ross moves into Juju's spot. And you play more of a run-pass balanced. Andy Reid said last night, that final touchdown, he said, well, if I remember right, it was pretty balanced running and passing, which I think it was like 3 and 3. 3 passes, 3 runs for the touchdown to make it 17-10.
Well, overall, 29 pass attempts for Mahomes and then 26 rushes.
Yeah.
However you view Mahomes running the football, so 5. So you can always take that, at least with a grain of salt, those 5 carries for Mahomes.
Yeah, so Mahomes to Gray for 29 yards on the first touchdown drive. Mahomes to Gray for 29 yards. Kareem Hunt for 9 yards. Kareem Hunt for 5 yards. Mahomes to Hunt for 9 yards. Incomplete pass, but a defensive hold. And then Samaje Perine up the middle for 2 yards. So three passes, 3 runs on that play.
By the way,
on that drive.
Jared Wiley's block on that Noah Gray 23-yard completion is not as highlighted as it was, or it should have been, I say, on social media yesterday. It was amazing. I mean, the play doesn't get off unless he makes that block.
Yeah, we'll see what this Chiefs team will do moving forward now. They have the Saints on Monday night and then a bye week. I said it on Twitter yesterday, and I'll repeat it. I gave it some thought last night, and morally, I don't think it's right for Rashee Rice to continue this year and not be suspended. I think Roger Goodell needs to look at himself in the mirror and figure out what message he wants to send to the rest of the league by allowing Rashee Rice to continue to play this year and not be suspended. I don't think you need to wait for the court case and the legal proceedings to play out. I think you need to go ahead and get it done right now. Suspend him. I say probably 8 games, maybe 12 games. If you want to suspend him for 12, 13 games, then maybe you can do that, but just get it done. Send a message to the rest of the league that this will not be tolerated, and we don't have to wait for the legal process to play out. That's what I think. I gave it some thought last night, and morally, I just don't know that I can move forward with the Rashee Rice not being suspended.
Unless the MRI comes back and he's only going to miss 1 week, then I say yes, correct. If we pray and hope and Rashee Rice's knee is somehow okay, well, then I would say hold off on that, though.
Yeah, it's negotiable.
Yeah. Two quick things. I think we'll see a lot more 12 personnel, which we saw again when he went out. We saw a lot more Noah Gray, Kelsey in the field at the same time. And you even mentioned the 13 personnel with Jared Wiley on there. And then also, little fun fact. Don't want to get our hopes up too much. According to Spot Track, the Browns converted all but $1.21 million of Amari Cooper's 2024 salary into a signing bonus, which means if you trade for him right now, all you owe Amari Cooper is $941,000.
Yeah, so prorated 1.2.
If you trade for him at the deadline, it's $605,000 you owe Amari Cooper. So keep that in mind. Amari Cooper is very affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I went last night and looked up all the different cap hits of some of the players. Again, not saying that they're going to make a trade for any of them. DeAndre Hopkins is 8.3 cap hit, but that's going to be prorated. Deontay Johnson, $7 million cap hit, but that's prorated. All these guys are unrestricted free agents at the end of the season, so rent players. DeMarcus Robinson, 2.5 prorated. If they make a move, it's probably DeMarcus Robinson, let's be honest.
Well, I don't know how, but I'm with you, but how do the Rams do it? They have no one healthy. They have no receivers healthy.
They have nothing really to play for this year either. They have nobody healthy, and they're not doing anything, so might as well get a 7th rounder for your 4th or 5th receiver.
They were talking about trading Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford was being discussed.
True.
Like, even if you say who do you throw to, they probably view DeMarcus Robinson as replaceable, where the Chiefs are in more of a desperate need and say, we'll give you a 7th rounder. And the Rams wouldn't have DeMarcus Robinson next year anyways on a 1-year deal.
Fun fact, though, just for everyone, not fun, just fact. The Chiefs have $4.6 million in cap space. So keep that in mind when you're talking about Deontay Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins and the 7 and the 8, and it is prorated, yes. The Chiefs only have $4.6 million in cap space right now.
Yeah, I think DeMarcus Robinson is probably, if they're going to make a move, the most likely. I just don't know that they make a move. I think they view their move as Hollywood Brown getting healthy towards the end of the season. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Number of texts coming in. This text says, please tell me Veach has lost Kadarius Toney's number. Surely don't try to bring him back. They won't, and don't call me Shirley.
Great pull, airplane.
Text says they'll trade for MVS just to watch this fan base meltdown. No. Text says trade for Marcus Robinson at the trade deadline. Text says, when's the trade deadline? It would be November 5th at 3 o'clock Central Time. November 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
I do wonder, though, they obviously need receivers, I think, plural, but how focused will they be on getting a slot? Like, how focused will they be on getting a slot receiver versus, like, Demarcus Robinson, I don't really think fits that role.
No, he'd be an X. He'd be a guy that, if they need somebody to fill in for Rashee Rice, that's probably.
But Rashee was the power slot. Like,
he was both. He was an X.
He's both. Don't get me wrong, but.
He's both! They lined him up all over the place, so it's just like he was the target. How do we get him the ball against a good matchup and in space? Because that's the thing. Nobody's going to create the yards after the catch that Rashee Rice created. Juju is, can be the power slot and be a bigger guy, and was running those, Rashee Rice routes. But even when he catches the ball, he's not going to be the guy that breaks the number of tackles and has that ability to, make guys miss. Tex says the bye week is now huge. Reed adjusts to a heavy personnel run game with taking shots when there. Are they going to be the same offense as it was last year? I don't think they're going to go like heavy personnel run game. I think they're going to run the same offense they did last year when they had MVS and Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and Justin Watson. And those were the main guys with Travis Kelce that they had to throw to. Now, Xavier Worthy and Kelce, and then you've got Justin Watson and Juju. Those four, I'll take that over the, Kelce, MVS, Kadarius, and Sky Moore. Or trade out Sky Moore for Justin Watson, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll take that this year over what they had last year. So I don't think that they will do a lot of sort of switching up what their offense is. Tex says Justin Watson season, especially on third down, with a sort of a oh no emoji.
Can't wait for the Justin. Is it Justin Ross hype train back yet? Have we seen a lot of Justin
At least
Ross
for today.
hype trains?
Tex says, in Sky's defense, at least his tip ball didn't go straight to a defender. That is true. That's a great point. See? Look at the positive. Always look at the bright side of life. Tex says, are we sure Hollywood is out for the season? Haven't heard a confirmed timeline on his injury. The reports were that Hollywood was lost for the regular season. That the timeline for him. Now, he could be ahead of the timeline. Vinny Pasquantino wasn't expected to return until the American League Championship Series or maybe the World Series. And I think he'll be back tomorrow.
Ooh, Jason.
What do you think? You think he's out for the wild card series?
I know he's trending well, but hitting BP's a lot different than.
Oh, he did a live batting practice.
I
against
know
Will
he
Smith.
hit off Will Smith.
He was hitting off Will. Not many people can hit off Will Smith. I mean, if you're
lefty.
Yeah. If you're,
well, you're right. Lefty matchup right there.
Exactly
yeah,
what it
really
is.
trying to get him
Yeah.
ready.
You know what? Let's do that. Let's have a little fun here. Let's hear from Vinny Pasquantino, clip number 3. Vinny P in the post game with Joel Goldberg when he brings up his timetable, but not timetable, but kind of timetable, but making sure he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, what a great season so far. We're going to work to not make this this over in a week or whatever it is. So we're hoping we got a lot more season. We're really excited. We're going to celebrate tonight. We're going to have a great weekend, and we're going to get ready for wherever we're going on Tuesday.
Sam Long with the beer?
Yeah, there you go, Joel. Right for you.
It's a waste of a good beer there, but thank you very much. Okay, so you're going to enjoy it. You want to go far in the playoffs. I know how hard you're working. I'm not asking for a timetable, but how badly you want a taste of this.
No timetable, no timetable. I don't got anything. I'm progressing. I'm progressing the way the doctors have told me. That's all I really got. The doctors have told me that I'm progressing well. Sam Mellinger's right here to make sure I don't say anything stupid. And, yeah, that's what I got.
Last thing, what do you, other than Tommy Pham just opening up a bottle of champagne with his mouth? Oh, wait, here he comes. Wow. Say champagne fountain. What do you like so much about this group, this blend of players?
I don't know. I just love them. It's just a good group of guys. We play hard. We work hard. We're trying to do the little things right. He'd be texting me at like 1 a.m., man. I just, like, he's like one of those nagging girlfriends. Yep, that's what I do.
I got a good laugh from Sam Mellinger, too.
Tommy Pham, Vinny Pasquantino's a nagging girlfriend. Vinny Pasquantino texting Tommy Pham at 1 in the morning randomly. Also, Tommy Pham being annoyed that Vinny's texting him at 1 in the morning.
What's he texting him at 1 in the morning? That could be the difference of
Let's
why he's
get
annoyed.
it. Let's go. All caps, exclamation points, right? And he's like, man, you woke me up with your caps. All right, your text actually screamed into my ear to wake me up, dude. Come on, that was a guy that wanted to say but couldn't say. That was a guy that wanted to say.
The excitement in his
couldn't
voice.
Say. There's no timetable. I'm progressing. Sam Mellinger's right there, making sure I don't say anything stupid. I'm progressing. That's all the doctors want. The doctors are saying I'm progressing, and I can't say anything. It's kind of saying something without saying something. Matt Quattrero did say something. Matt Quattrero was on MLB radio yesterday afternoon after the win for the Royals, knowing now they'll be playing the Orioles. Here's Matt Quattrero. He was asked about the Vinny Pasquantino playoff possibility being on the roster, and then answers the question that we know about the starting staff. But he starts off with weighing in on Vinny and the possibility of him playing tomorrow night, and then confirms what the three pitchers are.
Vinny does have a chance. Yes, he had live at bats yesterday against Will Smith and Steven Cruz, which we were able to do on the field here yesterday. We have another one scheduled for tomorrow wherever we go. And if everything checks out with that, assuming Tuesday morning he wakes up okay, there is a chance that he can be on the roster. It's absolutely remarkable what he's done. It's crazy to watch, watch him in the cage and how hard he's worked and all the work that Jeff Blum and the medical guys have put in with him. It's just absolutely amazing. As far as the rotation, we know what we're going to do. By clinching Friday, we were able to set it up the best we could. So we'll have Reagan, Lugo, and Waka set up for the 3 games, whoever we're playing.
Look, people do radio differently. I don't know, but I would just say, like, when the guest is talking, maybe don't eat the microphone while you're. I mean, that's MLB radio, MLB Network radio. That
intensely listening.
Like
it was his best Darth Vader.
I mean, good.
Come on.
Stay away from let the man talk. So here's the plan, as Matt Quattrero said yesterday late afternoon. Live batting practice today in Baltimore. Waking up tomorrow to see how he feels after 3 days straight of live BP.
I want to be pleasantly surprised.
Oh man!
I
count on it. He's in the lineup.
Because I don't want
batting
it to
third, DHing. Vinny Pasquantino.
I don't want it to happen where I'm counting on him.
Count it.
And then all of a sudden, it's
Championship.
Adam Frazier getting good amount of at bats. I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is pretend it's like when you bet against your team.
So you're emotionally hedging. Vinny
I'm
Pasquantino,
emotionally
the number 3 hole tomorrow?
hedging Vinny. I'm emotionally hedging. I want him there. I'd be thrilled. It's incredible. But I don't want to count on it. And then all of a sudden, he's not quite ready. And then I'm just sad and disappointed. And I don't want that.
Jason's swinging a hot bat lately. I don't know. I like. Is this what we're saying? We're kind of floating these?
Oh no, not at all. This is
this is a guess.
This is
This is all vibes.
This is reading the tea leaves. This is Royals.
Okay, I was thinking this was you trying.
I don't have the connections with the Royals that I've got
yeah.
with the Chiefs and the Kareem Hunt news
Gotcha.
and the McKinnon news and the Kadarius Toney news and the Juju Smith-Schuster news. Like, no, I don't have that with the Royals. I'm reading the tea leaves. Like, Vinny looked right. I mean, can we just agree that Vinny looked like a guy who wanted to say, "Yeah, I'm playing"?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And Sam, if he's like, "Look, there's the doctors are saying I'm progressing. We'll see. Obviously, I want to be out there, but they're saying I'm progressing." But the fact Sam Mellinger's right there, Sam, there's no timetable. The doctors have just told me. I don't know. All right, I don't want to. He's making sure I don't say anything stupid. What could you say stupid? What was it? What is it that you could say stupid if it wasn't? Dude, if you wake up on Tuesday and you feel fine, you're on the roster.
It's like a Jordan Mason. He's like, the media always tries to get me in trouble.
That's why I don't talk to the media while drinking champagne.
You know, I think it sounds weird, but the best thing about that injury was that it was a break and not like a oblique injury, or it was a hamstring injury or a groin injury, because if that gets to 100% and you feel good swinging the bat, well, you feel pretty confident that he's good to go. If it was an oblique problem or something, there's a chance that he takes BP today and then something flares up and you're not good to go. And so when you hear all of this from Matt Quatrero, from Vinny himself, that did feel like, okay, he's progressing, that he's at least going to be available. This could also mean he's on the roster so he could pinch it later. Right. Not that we're going to start him in the game. However, I don't think Vinny would be that pumped up if it was, well, we may get you in, but it also may be 6-0 or something like that. So to me, I think he is going to be good to go, and we may see him in the lineup, and they're just kind of waiting for the official announcement at that point.
All right, let's do two different things here. Let's go around the room. First blush, first instinct, before we find out about before Andy Rogers reports on the live BP, whenever they do that this afternoon in Baltimore and get acclimated and go out and take some some batting practice as a team and some infield and stuff and get ready and more acclimated to Camden Yards. Before all of that happens, 2 questions, 2 answers. We'll do the first one. Yes or no, he's on the wild card roster. Sterling?
I'll go yes.
Yes.
Dylan?
I'm going to go yes.
Yes. Yes or no, he's in the lineup starting tomorrow afternoon?
No.
No.
I'm going to go yes. I mean,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yes,
We're
of course
activating
he's
him?
in the 2v2. Of course he's batting third and DHing tomorrow. Of course
What
he
I
is.
want,
Let's
I'm
go!
emotionally hedging, Jason. It's an emotional hedge.
Let's go!
I've been hurt too many times.
Dude, I mean, the different look, they may lose Tuesday and Wednesday, okay? They may lose the next 2 days. We'll find out. But the difference in matchup from the Astros and the Orioles for this team specifically is massive. You would have 2 of the 3 guys for the Astros going being left-handed pitchers. The same 3 guys, by the way, with Valdez, Brown, and Kikuchi, the same 3 guys that you just got swept by the Astros scoring 3 total runs. Those same 3 guys, it was Valdez, Brown, and Kikuchi would be these 3. Instead, you got 3 righties. 3 right with a lefty-heavy lineup like the Royals, and even Paul DeYoung that hits righties better than lefties as a right-handed hitter, and most of your pinch hitters off the bench are going to be lefties, and you got 3 righties. That's unbelievable difference. They against the Astros, I think they would have had to win 2-1 games, like 2-1, 3-2, 1-0 maybe. I think you can win a 6-4. A 6-5 game against the Orioles because their bullpen is also trash. And the Astros bullpen is really good. Like, we would have been, I think the Astros series would have been just a frustrating needle pricks to the eye watching this offense go up, 3 down, 3, get a guy on first, 2 out single, cool, nothing happens, can of corn, lazy grounder. What kind of swing was that? Rolling over the top. It would have been a lot of that, it feels like, against the Astros because their pitching, it's just a terrible matchup with the lefties and how good they are with this lineup. Whereas the Orioles, they got a chance to score some runs. I think they can absolutely score some runs. If Tommy Pham's, bat, if, he hit a double, he got almost a home run. So if his bat's returning, in front of Bobby, and if Vinny's there as the number 3 hitter with a little protection, Massey with that, 3-run stroke yesterday and helping, get the win. Like maybe that swings back. Like, yeah, they got some chances against. Look, Corbin Burns is really good. So tomorrow is ace versus ace. All right, it is Reagans and Burns. Hopefully it's the ray gun out there or the Coltrane.
I mean, this is the third matchup, too, between these two guys. The Royals are familiar with Corbin Burns, and that's where it makes you feel a little bit better that they also had some success against him. He didn't go 6 innings, and out of the 2 starts, they got 5 total runs off him in both those games. Now, Cole Reagans also gave up 7 in his start in Kansas City.
1 2/3 and 7 runs.
But he was also great when he faced Baltimore at Camden Yards, and both these games happened, of course, back in April, so these are different teams now. But you have to feel much better about that, whereas Houston, not only do they have that rotation, they know how to win regardless of what happened in the regular season in October. They are born for that. Last year, they weren't as strong as they usually were and got to Game 7 of the ALCS. So to me, it was massive yesterday that the White Sox came through and the Royals found a way to grab the finale in Atlanta.
All I know is Salvi, World Series MVP Salvador Perez, is going to put the Royals on his strapping shoulders, and he is going to dominate this series against Baltimore. That's all I know.
Batting 4th probably tomorrow, right after Vinny. More so next. 4-0 is 4-0, baby. The loss of Rashee Rice. Saints coming up on Monday. Royals and the Orioles matchup. Bobby batting title. Hey, look, it's only an hour into the show. We didn't come this far just to come this far. We got 3 more hours left, baby. 3 more hours to go. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Josh Kaiser about 11:35 or so. We got Mick Schaefer that'll join us. We'll hear from Andy Reid around 12:30 or so. And we continue rolling along on this jam-packed, fun Monday. Hey, Johnny's Tavern has their Chiefs discount special going on today. The Monday after a Chiefs game, they give you the percentage off of what the team scored on all XL specialty pizzas. That's 17% off, dine-in only, good on all locations. 17% off all the XL specialty pizzas at Johnny's Tavern. 913-912-4810. We talked a little bit about it, and I meant to bring this up in the first hour. I want to make this point, and then I want to talk a little bit about what the defense has been doing. But they had that big play to Xavier Worthy down the field for the touchdown. They had the third down into the game, last play from scrimmage that wasn't taking a knee play. But there was also, after halftime, the first drive for the Chiefs, it was 3rd and 1, and it was third down, as I just mentioned, 3rd and 1. But Xavier Worthy with a 3-yard catch. It was just a take the snap, Worthy run a quick route, out, Mahomes throws the ball, diving catch, makes the catch, secures the football, first down. I'm like, okay, let's use him like that more. Like, yeah, can we see him do a little more of that? Like run some routes and not just run straight and be a decoy? And he's going to have to now. He's going to have to now. I would venture a guess that if Rashee Rice was in the game on 3rd and 1, Mahomes probably isn't making that throw to Xavier Worthy in that spot on 3rd and 1. I'm going to just guess that because have we seen him go his way outside of last week when it was a designed play for Xavier Worthy to get the ball underneath, and then Xavier Worthy stopped running on that route, versus then the designed play to get Xavier Worthy the ball on 3rd and short at the end of the game. This was a, hey, take your drop, find the open receiver, throw the ball, and it was Xavier Worthy, and he made the catch.
Yeah.
Because he went earlier in the game to Sky Moore in that situation. And Sky Moore was not in on that play. It was then Xavier Worthy who made the catch.
I believe that was Sky Moore's first target all season long, too.
He had 2, but I don't remember the other target for Sky Moore.
He had 2 this season and 2 in this game.
Yeah,
but
right. I don't remember the second one, to be honest with you. Not that it matters. But
it could have been a throwaway, too, that he was just in the area.
You're right. It very easily could have been. You're right. And the target might have been the first row, but they targeted for Sky Moore.
But I do think it's a great point. That's kind of what I was alluding to in that first segment is Xavier Worthy, whether the Chiefs like it or not, they like to ease in their rookie wide receivers. We saw it last year with Rashee Rice. They only have a small package for you. Don't mark that. Xavier Worthy, example, was only going to run those deep routes, it felt like, or the end arounds, and now he's going to have to really step up and run a full route train, whether the Chiefs like it, which they typically don't with rookie wide receivers. Yeah. They're going to have to get used to it because clearly right now he's their most talented wideout.
So we're talking about the offense a lot, but we have seen this team start 4-0 and a continuation from last year, and this defense has just been so damn good. It has started slow. They've continued to give up touchdowns on the opening drive for some reason. This from Reed's Nuggies on Twitter that tweeted me and Seren. But Reed's Nuggies tweets and says, food for thought. Oh, there you go. That's of course.
Nuggies for
That's
thought.
how all the tweets start with.
That's right. Every single tweet from Reed's Nuggies is food
Nuggies
for thought. At Fully Craig says, Chiefs defense on opening drives. Rush yards 68, pass yards 217, points allowed 24. Chiefs defense on the other 34 drives, 48 points. I mean, it's just like
incredible.
The opening drive, for some reason, they have given up the touchdowns and the points. And after that, they have buckled down and played some phenomenal football. Let's hear from Patrick Mahomes, if we can. Patrick Mahomes weighing in on the defense and what they've done this year and what they did against the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I knew we had to pick up our urgency. We weren't playing good, but I think the best thing about it is, I mean, no one talks about it, and they start to now, but our defense is a really good defense, and they know how to shut the door and keep us in football games, and then they believe that the offense is going to find a way to score enough points in the end, and that's what we did today. I mean, they had quick 10 points. We put them in terrible positions. They held them to a field goal, and then they shut the door the rest of the game. I mean, and that's what it takes in a great football team is everybody stepping up. And our defense has done that this entire year. And offensively, we found a way to get enough points.
So can we start talking about It's 4 games in. I get it. And I know there's some players with some decent numbers so far. But can we start the conversation of Chris Jones Defensive Player of the Year? Because they're 4-0 and I might be able to make a case that he's been the most important player for the Chiefs. And typically we say, who's been the MVP of the Chiefs? Not named Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I can make a case that Chris Jones has been the MVP of the Chiefs, including Patrick Mahomes.
I think more so than Mahomes.
Right.
I put McDuffie over Mahomes right now.
Because of how Mahomes has struggled. Chris Jones has been double-teamed and dominant. He's got, in 4 games, 3 tackles for loss. He's got 3 sacks in 4 games. And that comes with all the double teams and the focus of every offensive line when Karlaftis and FAU are the other guys that are pass rushing. He also, like Turk Wharton, had a great series, a dominant series in the game. He had a good game, but one dominant series when he had the sack and he had the other pressure. Well, that was one-on-one with the right guard twice. Why? Because Chris Jones was being double-teamed. I mean, you don't want to talk about like, oh, look what Kelsey's doing. Kelsey's numbers aren't there, but we know how great Kelsey is because he's got all the attention. All right, well, Chris Jones' numbers are there. He's got 3 sacks already in 4 games, had 2 of them yesterday. Has 3 tackles for loss, which we talk about playing the run is not one of his strong suits, right? Well, he blew up one of the runs. That 4th down play, or was it 3rd and short? It was 3rd and short. And he blew up the play right up the middle, and then that was when Jalen Watson was blitzing and came and made the tackle on Dobbins, and they punted. It was 3rd and short at like the 29-yard line or something, or the 39, I guess, if they got the ball at the 30. Can't remember the exact situation. But, against the run, he's not all that good. Oh, he blew up that offensive line against the run there. And was the reason why Dobbins had to stop and then hesitate, which allowed Jalen Watson to chase him down from behind and make the tackle. I think there needs to be a conversation about Chris Jones Defensive Player of the Year right now.
I've always said he's our Joe Green. As far as Chiefs fans.
Less mean, though.
Less mean. Almost the opposite, where everyone assumes that Joe Green was mean.
Listen.
Everyone assumes Chris is nice, but he might actually be a little mean on the field.
He's a great player. Listen.
I
got that sack.
He's a Super Bowl and obviously 2 Defensive Player of the Years away, but if he gets one this year, then he's only 1 DPOY and 1 Super Bowl away from having all the accolades of Joe Green.
Yeah, I mean, he's Chris Jones is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And Defensive Player of the Year would lock that up. And, I think sometimes we hesitate here locally outside of Mahomes when we talk about, like, players of the year because, well, there's Micah Parsons, there's Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson had the 4 sacks. You don't want to be a homer. Right. Aiden Hutchinson had the sacks and all of that stuff.
I think he's top 5 right now.
He's the 4th betting favorite.
Yeah, I would say he's top 5. Aiden Hutchinson, Kyle Van Noy has 6.
Aiden Hutchinson, T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa, and then Chris Jones.
I think if you want to put a sprinkle on one, a fun one, Xavier McKinney for Green Bay has 4 interceptions through 4 games.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
He's the 9th betting favorite right now.
I don't know if that's going to keep up for 17 games, but that's pretty interesting. 4 interceptions already for him.
So Aiden Hutchinson, T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa, Chris Jones are the betting favorites. And then after Chris Jones, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Fred Warner, Micah Parsons, Xavier McKinney, and Will Anderson Jr.
Well, what makes Chris Jones so interesting is because a lot of times he's playing on the interior, the sack numbers might not be the same as a Myles Garrett or a Bosa or a Watt, right? And part of that's also due to the fact that the Chiefs don't have another – Karlaftis is good, but they don't have another elite. Like Max Crosby now has Christian Wilkins there with him. The Browns have a lot of great defensive players overall. I'm not saying the Chiefs don't, but it doesn't seem like Chris Jones has a partner in crime on the defensive line, so he's getting double-teamed and the occasional triple team, which, again, is what made Aaron Donald so special and what makes Chris Jones so special as well. I think he affects so many more plays than he gets credit for. Chris Jones affects and collapses so many pockets, and you won't see sack numbers. You won't see that show up in the stat book. But I do think the NFL is getting wiser to the fact that sacks aren't everything. Pressures count a lot more. How often are you winning versus double teams? Because Chris Jones is elite in all those categories, even if it does not always show up in the box score.
Well, I think he's one of those unique defensive tackles, too, where he's so big but also so quick right off the snap. I mean, on the 4th down play, the 4th and goal play, he did one move and got into the backfield, pressured Herbert, got held, and disrupted that play. And to me, I've always thought this with defensive lines. When you've got a defensive tackle, a nose tackle that can generate pressure up the middle, I feel like it almost discombobulates the quarterback more than having pressure off the edge. Because if you have it up the middle, you kind of just disregard everything that you were hoping to see, that the first and second read, because you've got a 6'7", 330-pound guy coming directly at you, and he can run you down. Like, he is the definition of what a grizzly bear, I'd imagine, would be like when trying to run from a grizzly bear. It's huge. He's fast. He can catch up to you. And Herbert yesterday didn't even get a chance to look at his first or his second read. He had to scramble and then throw a prayer because it was fourth down. And to me, when you've got a guy at that specific position that can generate that type of pressure, I think it's far more impressive than winning one-on-one battles outside as an edge rusher.
And look, on that particular play, FAU got a pressure and a quarterback hit. Not to take anything away from FAU, because FAU still had to get past his blocker, but Jones flushed Herbert to Felix Uzama because he won that quickly. But FAU being there made Herbert have to throw the ball the way he did and threw it over the head of his receiver. There was no chance of them completing that pass on 4th down and 1. And how many games is it now for Chris Jones to sack the quarterback on their final offensive play? How many games has that been? I mean, he was the closer a lot last year, because I know he did it against the Bengals. The final offensive play against the Bills, it wasn't a sack, but he walked Deion Dawkins back into the hip of Josh Allen, who missed a wide-open receiver because of Deion Dawkins hitting Josh Allen while he was throwing it. With Chris Jones, it was not a sack, but that was the last offensive play for the Bills, if my memory serves me correctly. They may have had one more, but you get the point. But there were plenty of others where the last play, Chris Jones makes the sack, and Chris Jones got the sack on the final play for the Chargers in the game, because on 3rd and 11, Jones has the sack, and then they punt, and the Chiefs run out the clock with that 3rd down and 6 pass to Xavier Worthy for 15 yards. Like, he's been the closer, and he's had a number of sacks there at the end when it's like, all right, it's go time, and then he comes through.
Were you surprised at the snap count in general of the defensive line? So Chris Jones played 79% of the snaps, which was 44. George Karlaftis played 51, which was 91% of all defensive snaps right there.
Well, no Mike Dana. I mean,
Turk Wharton played 66%. And then Felix, 46%, 26 snaps. You get Mike Pennell, Malik Herring, right there, 32% of snaps. And Cam Thomas played 3 snaps defensively. I don't know. Were you surprised at all, I guess, by the breakdown? I know, obviously, no Mike Dana, but maybe were you expecting more Felix, less Felix, more Cam Thomas? I mean, he played 3 snaps overall. I thought Felix, again, he's at least looking better than maybe some people thought. He's not getting completely washed away on every single play, and he is making a couple of splash plays, it feels like, every game, even if the consistent every down isn't quite there. I don't know. I guess maybe I thought maybe Karlaftis played a little more than I thought he would. I mean, 91%'s a ton for a defensive end. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts there in the D-line overall.
The Karlaftis isn't really that much of a surprise to me because, without Mike Dana in there, you need a 3-down defensive end. And I don't know that you want to just move forward with Malik Herring more. I mean, Malik Herring played more, and he got the hit on Justin Herbert, and that resulted in Herbert throwing an incomplete pass. So Malik Herring, at least had a play where you're like, oh, hey, look, Malik Herring. They said his name on the broadcast. Hey, they said his name. Hey, y'all said my name. Malik Herring, had that particular play. I thought FAU had a couple of plays that jumped off the screen. But what's maybe surprising, maybe not, is against a team that you look at and say, this is going to be a team that's going to want to run the football. And Herbert had 27 attempts, and they handed the ball off to Dobbins and Edwards 20 times. Quentin Johnson got the ball on a handoff once, but 20 times they handed it off to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. But playing together most of the game was Chris Jones and Turk Wharton. And, Turk isn't a guy that you look at and go, all right, well, he's going to be in there to stop the run. All right, you're going to go Pennell or Noddy on first downs typically. And, I think this Chiefs team, as I've said before, is uniquely built to stop the run. I talked about that with Adam Teicher during training camp. I said, last year we talked about how good the pass defense was. I think the rush defense is going to be better this year than it was last year, and it's going to be something that they can hang their hat on. And they've been doing that against the primary backs for the other team. And, from Derrick Henry to Zach Moss to Bijan Robinson to even if you combine Dobbins and Edwards with their 20 carries and 51 yards in the game, like the Chiefs' defense against the opposing running backs has been elite so far this year. And the surprise there is Turk Wharton playing as much as he did, but that's also a credit to how good Turk Wharton has looked this year, and that's a big addition to this team because they didn't have that last year because he talked about it during training camp that he didn't really have his legs the way that he did 2 years ago when he tore his ACL, and he was still coming back from that. Now he looks better than really he's ever looked before.
Yeah, agreed.
He's been awesome. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up in about 15 minutes from now, get his thoughts on this Royals team, what the playoff roster may look like, how they break down their 26 players. Is it 13-12? Is it or 13-13, I guess. Is it 14-12? Is it 15-11? Like, what do they do? We'll do that coming up with Josh Kaiser. We'll hear from Field Yates coming up at noon, get his thoughts on this Chiefs team, and maybe even, a little question about Chris Jones, Defensive Player of the Year, through 4 weeks. And then also hear from Andy Reid at 12:30, Mick Schaefer today as well. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up in the next segment. Atlanta and New York have a doubleheader going on today. 12:10 and then 3:40 with Atlanta and the Mets looking to sweep or split. I guess obviously that would be the only scenario unless they tie. But if either team sweeps, they're definitely in the series, in the postseason, and Arizona's in the postseason. If the Mets and the Braves split, then Atlanta and New York are in, and Arizona gets knocked out. If Atlanta wins Game 1, they are locked into the 2 seed, and Game 2 does not matter at all for them. So then they wouldn't have to throw Chris Sale, and they could save him for what would be the trip to San Diego against the number 1 wild card team. If they lose Game 1, they'll throw Chris Sale in Game 2 to try to win that game, and then they would be the 2 seed heading to San Diego with Chris Sale not starting on Game 1 on Tuesday.
So the Diamondbacks just can't have them split. The Diamondbacks have
one team or the other win both.
One or the other.
One or the other win both.
Gentlemen's agreement if you're the Mets and the Braves. Excuse me. We'll blow one if you blow the second one.
Jesus, Sterling.
Son of a gun.
I was going to. Well, I don't even know how to follow that.
Anyway,
you walk directly into that. I haven't been clipped in a while, but you also have more chances than I do.
Dylan, please go.
I was going to say that don't tell Brandon Staley that, that they're going to try and, work away for both of those teams to get into the playoffs.
Look,
we don't want to do that.
It's a championship of fantasy football. Let's split the pot. What
are you talking about?
Let's just go ahead.
Who does that?
Nobody does that. So, we'll see what the implications are today for Arizona, Atlanta, New York, or at least how it all shakes out with the Royals winning yesterday, hurt Atlanta because Atlanta would be 89 and 71 right now, and they would, if they were to lose both games to the Mets, they would then be the 3 seed, but they would already be in because they've got the tiebreaker over Arizona with this 89 and 71 record, and if they lost both, they would be 89 and 73 tied with Arizona. The Mets, if they won both, would then have the tiebreaker over Atlanta. Atlanta's got a 6-5 series lead on the Mets. So if somebody sweeps today, if the Mets sweep, they also pass Atlanta in the standings. They would sweep because they would win both of them, but you get the point. 913-912-4810. What do we think the Royals do with their wild card roster? It's a 3-game series, so it does allow you to go shorter on the number of pitchers. It's not a 7-game series. We're going to need a lot of arms. 3-game series, and you may only play 2. Let's hope for the Royals' sake that they win Game 1 and then only play 2. That'd be great. So Reagans, Lugo, and Waka are on the roster. So there's 3 guys that are from the pitching staff. And Urseg, Bubic, Schreiber, Lynch, Long out of the bullpen. So there's 5 guys. There's 8 players that are already on the roster from pitching staff. And
you probably have at least 12 bullpen arms, I think, at a minimum.
See, I think you could go with 11. I think you go 15 and 11. Because here are the 15 positions.
Yeah, but then you have 6 bench bats, basically, is what you're...
It's Matt Quattrero.
I get that.
Here's
that's a lot.
If you had 15 and 11, you tell me who's off the roster then. If they have 15 players on the position player, here's how it would stack up. Infield and catcher: Salvi, Freddie, Bobby Witt, Michael Massey, Michael Garcia, Paul DeYoung, Yuli Gurriel.
Okay.
Outfield, 5 of them: Isbel, Renfroe, Pham, MJ, and Blanco. Utility guys: Hampson and Frazier. That's 14.
Yeah.
Vinny would make 15. Who's off the roster if they go 14 and 12?
Either Blanco.
They're not taking Blanco off this roster.
No, I know,
Blanco
but
is 100% on this
he's
roster.
a bad pinch runner. I don't know why we
He
have
is
this
100% on this roster.
He's a bad base
He is
runner,
100% on the roster.
Adam Frazier would be the first guy to go to. I know he's a lefty bat.
You think Quattrero is going to take a pinch hitter that gives you the professional at bats like Frazier gives you?
You do not need to have both Hampson and Frazier on,
Hampson
especially
gives you versatility in the defense. Look, we're talking about Matt Quattrero here in a 3-game series.
We're
talking about a 3-game series.
15 just seems overkill.
I think the bigger question would be who do you add to the bullpen then, or who do you add for the 12th guy right now? Because who would it be if there's 11?
So
that
it-
would be the
the 11 I would have.
You'd probably
would
have
be,
Singer for
so
sure.
Reagan's Lugo Waka would be the 3,
Yeah.
and then you'd have Urseg, Bubic, Schreiber, Lynch, Long, Zerpa, Marsh, Lorenzen, Singer would give you 12.
So that's leaving off Hernandez.
That's leaving off Hernandez.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're going to leave off Hernandez. Because if they go 11, then you'd have to leave off either Zerpa, Marsh, Lorenzen, or Singer. One of those
And
guys
they'd
would have to be
probably
left
leave
off.
Hernandez because Serpa's an extra lefty there, and they're not going to take Lorenzen or Marsh off.
Yeah. So if they go 11, which is what I have them at 11, I think the choice might be Marsh or Singer. And it may be Singer because they might be giving a tip of the cap that Singer's been around a number of years. And Quattrero's already mentioned that, yes, Singer can pitch out of the bullpen. All arms are going to be available. We've got our 3 starters for this. It's a 3-game series. It's so much different than even a 5-game series. Yeah, I wouldn't see 15 and 11 in a 5-game series, and definitely not a 7-game series. But we know how much Quattrero likes to use his pinch hitters, pinch runners,
I'm not
bringing guys in
disagreeing,
on
but-
defense. He loves it. And this gives him the ability in 3 games to use all of those guys, everybody on his bench. And, I mean, Ursay can pitch all 3 games. Bubic could go 3 days in a row if need be. Schreiber could go 3 days in a row if need be. Because no matter what, you got Friday off. Even if you go 3 games, you got Friday off. Or if you win Tuesday and Wednesday, you've got Thursday and Friday off, and everybody rests. I think 8 bullpen guys would be enough for this team to make it through 3 games. Because if you're winning 2 games, Reagans and Lugo or Waka are probably pitching pretty well to get you 6 or 7. If you're needing all of those guys to go longer, you're not winning the series. Because you're probably giving up a lot of runs by those guys. So Quattrero loves his bats. And if Vinny wasn't healthy, then you would go 14 and 12. I could see them doing that. But Vinny might be the 15th guy, and that,
I guess I'm also Paul DeYoung has some versatility. Michael Garcia has some versatility. Adam Frazier has some versatility. They don't run Garrett Hampson, so Garrett Hampson is.
I'm okay if Hampson was the first one off. If they went 14 and 12, then I would take Hampson off the roster.
Yeah,
that's what I would do. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll add Josh Kaiser to our roster coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Royals baseball, playoff Royals baseball, wild card round Royals baseball. Joining us now from One Royal Way podcast, it is Josh Kaiser here in the zone with us on a Monday. Josh, welcome into the show, sir. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, as usual, and I am feeling just about as good as I have ever felt when I've come on and talked to you guys on a Monday. So things are looking up for us here in this postseason Royals coverage, and I am jacked up about it.
Man, I love it. You know, last couple of weeks, actually, we've had some conversations that were not as enthusiastic and more of a, oh, man, what's happening, and could they really, and I hope they don't, and I'm scared they will. and they found a way to get it done, and they make the playoffs. They're in the postseason, and, win, lose, or draw, they celebrate on Friday night as they should. I just want to, looking back at the beginning of the season, before we talk about this matchup with the Orioles and maybe what you would do with the 26-man roster and the season Bobby had and finding a way to get into the postseason. But, like, looking back at the beginning of the year, I thought this team would win 77, 78 games is where I had them, and, competing for a playoff spot. In August, September, if you're like 3 games out, you're still competing, right? You're still in the mix. You're scoreboard watching. I thought that would be the case for the Royals this year. Where did you think they would be, and how, sort of improbable, maybe not the right word, surprised maybe the right word, that we're talking about this team in the postseason with the second wild card?
Yeah, I remember talking to you. We were in traffic on the way to the Royals exhibition game in Northwest Arkansas, and the signal wasn't great, so it probably didn't come through. But I felt super optimistic, as I usually am, about them winning 79 games. And at that point, I would have been ecstatic if they got that close to 500, and if they got to 500, like deeming this season an undeniable success. And now we're here. It doesn't matter how we got here, but the Royals are now postseason bound, and they didn't lose. They didn't have the epic collapse that everybody was, worried about. And we did like a post-game thing once they actually clinched Friday night after it happened. And just being able to shake off that potential for the success of the season and how they did and how they improved pretty much across the board, not being overshadowed by the fact that the floor completely dropped out and they missed it, had an epic collapse of, legendary, stature. But just to make sure that they sealed the deal, they made it to the postseason, they didn't have that collapse, and it didn't overshadow the successful seasons they've had was when the pressure really came off of me. I'm sure the players were in the same boat. Obviously, they were celebrating and stuff, but we were talking to Dylan while the game was going on, how they seemed very much pressing. Yeah, we talk outside of this. We're best friends. It's not a big deal.
That's cool.
We talked about how even if they did
breaking news,
a loss, breaking news,
Josh
and Dylan Michaels, best friends forever.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep. But it just seemed like they were all pressing, and we thought that even if they clinched by, Minnesota losing, that would still be a big, big deal. And I think we saw a lot of that during the celebration on Friday night.
Yeah. I really don't care how they clinched. Like, I think, if you take a few of those wins from July and you put them into last week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they clinch on that Friday night, do they clinch any different? Do they get an extra gold star? Like, do they get extra champagne by doing it that way? Like, I cannot stand, and I tweeted about it. Tigers fans for some reason just
you went after them. I loved it.
But just puffy chest for Tigers fans. That, by the way, not only did the fans, but the organization quit on this team. They sold at the trade deadline. Okay, so let's not act like there was this belief that they were going to turn it on all year long. But this absurd notion that the Royals have backed their way into the playoffs by having a rough stretch here. There are 162 games. There is no such thing as backing your way in to a postseason in Major League Baseball. There is no such thing as that. Yeah. They didn't back their way in. All you're doing is saying, well, the wins in September get counted for 1.3 wins, I guess, than if you win in May and June. or they all count the same. Like, I hate this notion that they backed their way in, because they didn't. And if you take a couple of those wins from July and August and move them to the last week, then what? Now they're cruising. They didn't back their way into the postseason. They're in regardless.
Yeah. And I see both sides of that argument. I mean, if this were another season where the Royals have the September that they had, the weird September, the bad September, then I would bet that they probably play themselves out of a playoff spot with that, even with that expanded playoff. I think on a normal or different year, I think there's credence to that. At the same time, ain't nobody talking about Baltimore backing into that fourth seed, and they were just as bad as the Royals down the stretch. They were slightly better, but nobody's talking about them backing into that first wild card spot. So I don't want to hear it. It is what it is. If the Tigers didn't want to be the 5 seed and go to Houston, maybe they needed to win on Sunday. No big deal. But I mean, we are where we are, and it's a long season to say that one team doesn't deserve to be there. Or I mean, I keep seeing things about like AL Central records if they didn't play the White Sox. I'm like, that's just you can't hold that against the team. Like, they play who they play, and now we play everybody. Every team plays everybody, and you can't cry about that this year. So the Royals are postseason bound. They deserve it. End of story.
I love that. Like, the Tigers, like, well, what would you be without the White Sox? Well, they'd have a worse record without the Tigers too, because they have a winning record against the Tigers. You dumbass.
Correct.
Like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Everyone got to play them the same amount.
Like,
there's not an extra game for us.
Tigers played them the same as well. Like, I also want to know the definition that people have of in versus out, because backing into the playoffs, when the team was in the playoffs every day since July 20th, they have been in the postseason standings every day. They have woken up since July 20th in the playoffs. Whereas there's another team that's heading to the playoffs that since May 1st has woken up in the playoffs 8 days. The last 8 days of the season. But one team backed their way in and the other earned it legitimately. Like, I don't know. I would say maybe backing your way in. First of all, the narrative's dumb. I hate the backing your way in. But if there was going to be a team that backed their way in, it would be a team that turned it on while having 4 teams ahead of them collapse.
Correct.
So which team backed into the playoffs? Like, it's so dumb. But, you know, I couldn't help myself. I had to keep going at it with some Tigers fans that, I don't know, apparently they're murderers row now. They're the 27 Yankees, and they can't be stopped. Well, good luck in Houston. You know?
There might be something to that, and I'm glad they're going against the Astros, because I'd rather match up with the Orioles, who, again, I think are just as much in trouble and vulnerable as this Royals team. With a lot more to lose. Yeah,
let's talk about that. Okay, let's get into the actual Royals and not what, you know, other people say. They match up with the Orioles. The Orioles are a good team. Okay, they you know, they lost to the Orioles earlier this year. Orioles have a winning record against the Royals, but how much better do you think? And again, this is also admitting they may lose the next 2 days, so it doesn't mean they're going to win. But how much better do you like the matchup, and why, with the Orioles over the Astros?
I like it more because I think the Astros are a little bit more seasoned as far as like playoff experience goes. A lot of their great hitters and pitchers have plenty of postseason experience. That crowd in Houston just seems a little different than what I've seen. Not no disrespect to the Orioles fans, but the Houston crowd just seems very loud. I don't know if it's the dome effect or what, but it just seems a little different. I also hate going to Houston for their stupid ballpark dimensions. That short porch in left field is maddening. I hate it. So I'm just not super sad about not going there for that pure reason. But the Orioles are a very potent lineup, very good pitching staff, but they are still young with not a ton of playoff experience. And if we get to this point and I got to choose a fighter that I got to go up against, I'm going up with against the team that doesn't have as much experience in the postseason, because it is different. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think they match up a little bit better. I think the Royals could pull this out. Both those rotations are good for the same reasons. They don't strike out. They don't live and die on the strikeout and the walk, but they can do it. But they kind of live and breathe on giving up weak contact. And I think that we are able to, you know, stifle good offenses a little bit better than them stifling our let's say, bad offense. And then with the timely hitting, we'll see what the difference maker is. But, in the end, I think going against Baltimore is way more favorable than Houston.
And there's a bunch of right-handed pitchers for Baltimore. And Houston has, 2 of their 3 starters are going to be left-handers. They've got left-handed studs out of the bullpen, including their closer. Whereas, Craig Kimbrell, has 23 saves this year, but has a 5 ERA and is a righty. You know, the Royals are facing 3 right-handed pitchers. I know that Corbin Burns is the only announced starter, but Zach Eflin's going to go on Wednesday, and then Dean Creamer on Thursday if there is a third game. And
has that been official? I don't know. They haven't announced it.
They haven't announced anything but Corbin Burns.
Because I think there's a case to be made with any of those other 3 starters for Baltimore to make that case. And I think Cade Povich, his numbers aren't great. He had one of the worst ERAs down the stretch in the final 3 weeks. But he is the only lefty in that rotation.
True.
And I do wonder if they do kind of throw him in there just to keep the Royals honest, and they can't stack their wild card roster with a bunch of left-handed hitters to specialize against rights. And that's also not including that they have a very balanced bullpen. I think there's 4 lefties in their bullpen. It's a pretty balanced bullpen. So it's not something you can stack, and they can kind of work around that too. So it'll be interesting to see, something I'll keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, the Povich is an interesting point. I'm just going off of I tried to read as many as I could from those in Baltimore covering the team and the Sun and what the expectations are, and almost everyone had Eflin and Creamer as the second and third starters. It seems pretty across the board that it's Burns and then Eflin tomorrow and then Wednesday. And we'll see if there is a third guy, a third game, I should say. Real quick, the 26-man roster. Would you go with 13 and 13, 14 position players, 12 pitchers, 15 and 11? What are you thinking?
I think it is. It's a definitely interesting conversation. I don't think they go 13 and 13 just because I agree with you that Matt Quatrero loves to play the hitting matchups way more than pitching matchups. And I think the fact that they've got Marsh, Singer, and Lorenzen and Lynch all potentially being able to do multi-innings pretty easily. So I think that it kind of gives them a little bit more flexibility. I think they at least go 14 and 12, 14 hitters with 12 pitchers. And then if you really want to get risky with it and kind of count on those multi-inning relief pitchers that I mentioned, then you could potentially go 15 and 11. But then you're probably leaving out both Carlos Hernandez and, Michael Lorenzen at that point. Some people have left Brady Singer off the roster. Some people have left Alec Marsh off the roster, and I could see the case for all 3 of those guys. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think you send a better message both to Singer and Marsh to be like, you guys were here all year. You did everything we asked you to do. We're going to absolutely carry you on this wild card roster because we think you're the guys at this point. And Michael Lorenzen is just there for the ALDS potentially if needed. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they went 15-11. I would probably say it is at least 14-12.
All right, real quick, who wins this series, Royals or Orioles, and in how many games?
I am going to say Royals win in 3 games. I think the matchups are really, really good. I think the Royals have gotten to both Burns this year in their 2 starts. They did pretty well against him. And if it is Eflin for Game 2, they've gotten to him against Tampa Bay on the 4th of July. Yeah. So I think that there is potential for them to do it, especially if Denny is back, which it does seem like he is #back. Yeah. So I'm going to say the Royals push this to 3 games, and then a timely hitting gets them to the ALDS.
Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way Podcast. You're the man. Field Yates next. WHB. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up next segment. We've got Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Right now, Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider joining us here in the zone. Field, what is up? How are you, sir?
I am doing well, my friend. How are you today?
I am doing just fine. I do have some breaking news in Major League Baseball. Nothing locally to announce, but Field, Major League Baseball has announced that players will wear their primary home and road uniforms in the All-Star Game starting next season.
Hey, yo, you know what?
Yeah.
That is good news.
Great news.
There. Oh,
love it.
You're a fan, right? Okay, just
Oh,
to be clear, you're a fan.
love the primary home and road uniforms. Love it for the All-Star Game. I wish they would have done this a while ago, but they have announced that there was so much positive reaction. Field people just loved the jerseys the last couple of years.
Oh my God! And it's also kind of ridiculous, by the way, that like baseball has to consider the home and away uniforms when these two teams play. Like, how often? Like, you know, it makes sense in basketball and football
Right.
for a ref to have to try to figure out, right? Like, is that guy in the white jersey holding the guy in the also white jersey? Like, all right, it makes sense. But in baseball, like,
that's a good point.
The only time that the players are near each other is when they're on first base, and they're just sitting there having small talk the entire time. So.
And I don't think the pitcher is going to try to pick off somebody at first and throw it to the runner on accident because they're wearing the same color jersey.
Correct. But anyways,
great point.
A good change here. I think we can all agree that's a good change right there.
It's a great point. The Royals last year had the starting had a pitcher, had a catcher, and a shortstop on the field at the same time. And we're like, you can't tell them apart. Like, you can't look out there and say, man, there are 3 Royals right now on the field in an all-star game. This is amazing.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, you couldn't tell. Yeah. But now moving it forward next season, so there you go. There's the breaking news of Major League Baseball with Field Yates. All right, let's talk about this Chiefs team. They are 4-0, Field. Pyrrhic victory yesterday. They win, but they may have lost in the long run with Rashee Rice.
Yeah, you know, it's Jason. There's a phrase that I'm familiar with, although I often use it incorrectly. So I'll probably be doing that right now. The phrase is "Don't miss the forest through the trees," right?
Yeah.
And you know, the Chiefs are 4-0. That matters to me. It really does, especially this year, where there's a chance by night's end that they are one of just 2 teams who is 4-0, and they are the only undefeated AFC team remaining. So in the AFC this season, we've seen Baltimore lose 2 games already, one to the Chiefs, obviously, on opening Thursday. The Bills just got curb stomped by Baltimore, that same Baltimore team that could not beat Kansas City by 25 points last night, right? The Jets, who looked like they kind of found their mojo on Thursday Night Football a week and a half ago, lost to the Broncos in a game in which they couldn't move the football at all. The entire AFC North, besides the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say has looked under compared to what we expect, has performed worse than what we expected them to coming into the season. Long-winded way of saying, Jason, that like, yes, the Chiefs are 4-0 and battered. Yes, they are battered and bruised, but they're still 4-0, and nobody else can say that. Like, the Texans very nearly were 2-2 after yesterday. So this one feels different to me than some of the other injuries because Rashee Rice had. I thought he was their best offensive player in the first 3 weeks of the season, right? I understand that Patrick is the most valuable by every metric imaginable, but the best player was Rashee Rice, and that's just a difficult thing to overcome when it's not like if a wide receiver were to become available of note. It's not like the Chiefs would be the only team calling. So there aren't a lot of strings to pull right now to say, okay, here you go, Rashee Rice out. Well, that stinks. We'll see you in 2025, but we'll just go trade for somebody else. So they're going to have to grind it out once again this season.
You know the organization pretty well. I said last night that, if fans are expecting the Chiefs to go out and make a splash, then I think they'll be disappointed because there's a lot of talk about Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp. He's a lot more expensive on the salary cap, but if you can acquire that guy, you can figure out a way to make it work. Players like that, this organization. Do you think they will, as you said, figure it out and get through the season, knowing maybe their trade deadline acquisition after the season is over is Hollywood Brown, who's expected to make a return in January? Or do they go out and make a splash and bring in a guy like Amari Cooper or DeAndre Hopkins or somebody like that?
Yeah, so I do think one thing we know about Brett Veach, no stone left unturned, right? He will literally explore the depths of every available resource that he has. So I am not closing the door on anything happening. I would need, I think if I'm the Chiefs, I'm going to need the Browns to lose a lot of games. I'm going to need the Titans to continue to be a really bad team. I give you a couple other names that I think are sort of interesting, not necessarily, like game changers, but just sort of interesting. Well, this might be a game changer. Deontay Johnson, who's been exceptional over the past 2 weeks with the Carolina Panthers, they're 1-3. His base salary is just $7 million this season. So by the time that we get to the halfway point of the year, the cap hit to take him on would be just $3.5 million. This is not what makes some of the other ones complicated. Like Cooper Kupp, you mentioned. Like, I don't think the Rams are at all inclined to trade him. I don't think he wants to leave Los Angeles. This is a guy who I think feels like it's Rams or nothing for him. But there are some other names. Kendrick Bourne, again, not the kind of name that lights your world on fire, but the Patriots at 1-3 right now are definitely a team that should be looking towards 2025 and beyond. Bourne coming off of an ACL tear, but he was a name mentioned as a potential trade chip if the Patriots acquired Brandon Ayuk. So names like that are kind of what I think you're looking at. Or maybe the best answer is just figuring out from the inside. It's just hard, Again, all the players that I just mentioned, teams are not going to just gift wrap those players to the Chiefs. And if you're Kansas City, teams might even be less inclined to do so because they are at the top of the mountain. Teams don't want to be the team that facilitates more success for Kansas City. So it won't be easy to overcome the loss of Rashee Rice, and it definitely won't be easy to find someone who just says, oh, sure, no problem. Here is our useful wide receiver for a 6th round pick. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I've said the name that I think is probably most likely would be from the Los Angeles Rams, and that would be DeMarcus Robinson, who spent 5 years.
That's a
with
great
the Chiefs.
example.
So
now that Juju, I actually, if this was a month and a half ago, I would have said I actually proposed this in a conversation on ESPN. Was like, Juju Smith-Schuster looked like he would probably be gone from the Patriots. Why not just trade him for the lowest possible draft pick and make it conditional? Like, it would allow the Patriots to quote unquote save face. But Juju would come over for like a 2026 7th round pick that would only be sent if Juju Smith-Schuster won the Super Bowl MVP or something, right? So they've already crossed that bridge. And so the next bridge to cross would be, DeMarcus Robinson, an old friend like that, who, by the way, on a 1-year deal. So the Rams might actually be interested in something like that, right? It's not like it's impacting their future. And they invested a 6th round pick in Jordan Whittington, who looks pretty good. That's a good name. I appreciate you flagging that one because that's the kind of name that I feel like do some due diligence on it at the very least.
Yeah. Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. We brought up in the previous hour, Field, and I wanted to ask you this as well. It's 4 weeks in, so it is early, but, betting markets are out there and people are all that stuff. But do we start the conversation of Chris Jones, Defensive Player of the Year, and start to discuss that?
I think so, and I'll tell you what surprised me more? That the Chris Jones being in the Defensive Player of the Year award race is not surprising to me. But at ESPN Bet right now, Patrick Mahomes is the shortest odds for NFL MVP, which I thought was very surprising. Not again, what's so funny, Jason? I think you know this, and I think most of your listeners are nuanced and smart enough to realize this too. Is that in the world that I live in often, fantasy football, in the world of the NFL MVP, I don't believe Patrick Mahomes is a certified MVP candidate based off what he has done through the first 4 weeks of this season. I'm also smart enough, and all of us are, to know that does not mean that I don't think Patrick Mahomes is the best player on the planet by a lot, right? It's just that these are not just talent measuring awards. These are statistical cases for the specific year that you are in. So I think that was probably more of a forecast of what things could look like. If the Chiefs go 14-3 this season and they have all these injuries and they still find a way, it probably will go to Patrick Mahomes because it's a quarterback-driven award. Chris Jones being Defensive Player of the Year does not surprise me because I heard this has been a debate, who's been the best unit so far this NFL season, offense or defense on a team. And I think there's a decent case, if not a strong case, that the Chiefs defense has been the very best unit. When you factor in quality of opponent and production thus far, and the best player on that defense, of course, is Chris Jones. And it's not just making a lot of plays, it's making plays in really pivotal moments. He's a clutch production guy for that Chiefs defense. So I could certainly make the case. I'd imagine there are some Steelers fans right now that are saying, what about TJ Watt? Certainly a name to consider as well, but Chris Jones at least deserves to be on the podium for best defensive player 4 games into the season.
Yeah, of all the teams that have played 4 games so far, the Chiefs have given up 72 points, but most of those coming on the 34 points on the first drives of the 4 games for whatever reason. After that, the next 34 drives. This was from a tweet that was sent to me. The next 34 drives that the Chiefs have had after their first drive, they've given up a total of 48 points.
That's ridiculous or
yeah,
what?
I mean, just
but it's like a batter in the lineup, right? It's like a batter or a pitcher, you know?
Right, yeah, just skip through the first.
Yeah, you just got to get through them one time, and you have a feel for them. And that's what great defenses do. Spags is like Belichick. That was a Belichick thing for a long time, right? Like, you might get us early, but we're going to get you when it matters most. And Spags, right there as well. So they've been exceptional defensively, and it's so resourceful as well. I mean, guys acquired in all different ways. You've got players acquired on 1-year deals that have turned into multi-year contracts like Drew Tranquill, or third-day cornerbacks like Jalen Watson, and first-round picks like Trent McDuffie, guys you traded up for, guys traded down for, and everything in between. So it really has been a defensive masterclass putting this group together.
And honestly, like again, we talked in the previous hour, like I could make a case that with how Patrick Mahomes has played, and it hasn't been vintage Patrick Mahomes. I can almost make a case that the most important player through the first 4 games has been Chris Jones, because of how good that defense has been, and getting all the double teams and having the the pass rush win rate of all of the defensive tackles, the number 1 pass rush win rate from week 4 before the games are played tonight. Was Chris Jones currently right now, and all the double teams he's facing. And there have been so many games where Chris Jones, the last defensive play that they were on the field for, he got a sack. And yet another one yesterday, sacked Herbert to get off the field, and that was the last time the offense was out there. He did it with Burrow a couple of years ago, in the AFC Championship game. He's sort of that closer. Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. Were you surprised at all at the effectiveness and efficiency of Kareem Hunt in his first game since last year, and having hernia surgery, and sort of picking up to a degree of where he left off in the Chiefs' offense?
Truly, I was totally surprised. I couldn't tell, by the way, if the amount he played yesterday was that that struck me as simple as rookies, especially undrafted rookies, have a short leash when they fumble the football. And that's what it felt like yesterday was, right? Like, I don't know that the plan going into the game was Kareem playing as much as he did, leading the Chiefs in terms of backfield carries going into that game yesterday. So I was impressed. And, maybe it's good evidence, by the way, that, like, the best way to approach that running back position is to pay down as opposed to pay up, because you can find guys quite literally off the scrap heap the week of the game, or I guess 10 days before the game, and get them into the mix and have them be an integral part of a 17-10 victory a day later, or I guess a week later. But I was impressed. Yeah, I think this will end up being a committee for much of this season. I think Carson Steele will be back in the lineup, and he may even lead them in carries most weeks going forward. But, I'd imagine that the emotional boost that Kareem Hunt brought to the team was important as well. And on a day in which, again, they lost their best offensive player, it was a grinded out game. He got some grinded out yards for them against a defense that I thought actually played pretty well. Like the Chargers, I was impressed by, given all the defensive issues they had from an injury standpoint, and offensive for that matter. It's a gritty team, not good enough to win, obviously, but a gritty team. Yeah,
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN, and Andy Reid said yesterday he was going with the hot hand. He's like, I haven't lost confidence in Carson. Just the hot hand. Kareem Hunt was running the ball well, and he was. But in 3 years with the Kansas City Chiefs and 4 games now with Carson Steele has 2 more fumbles than Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt in 3 years had 1, and Carson Steele in 4 games has 2. And if you're Andy Reid, look, man, I trust that this guy's going to get the yards. I also trust that Kareem Hunt's not going to give the ball up. And I don't know that I trust that right now for Carson Steele. So that was a rough development for Carson Steele on Sunday or yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, margin for error is different, right? I mean, this is not,
absolutely.
Again, this is not the 50 touchdown seasons from Patrick Mahomes. Like, they needed the football yesterday. I mean, 17 points. I mean, that's the territory the team is living in now.
No doubt.
It's different than what Chiefs fans are accustomed to. And maybe a week from now we'll be talking about the Chiefs and, the offense struggling so bad that they're 4-1 or something. But, again, I just don't want to lose track of the fact that, at the end of the day, wins are wins, and they're 4-0, and only one team as of right now besides them, the Minnesota Vikings, can lay claim to that. Seattle can join the club tonight, but as of right now, it's just two teams in that club.
Last one for you, because the Chiefs play the Saints coming up on Monday night. What do you make of this Saints team? They come out of the gates and score 91 points in the first 2 weeks, and they've scored 36 since then, and they've lost both of those games by a total of 5 points. What do you see in this Saints team?
Very tough defensively. They're excellent on defense. They got a lot of talent. They're well coached. They attack. And if they have Demario Davis next week, they've got some of the best leadership/communication you'll find in the entire NFL on defense. Offensively, the situational football needs to be a whole lot better for them. It is going to be about two players next Monday night, 12 and 41, and I guess number 7 if he plays, which is Taysom Hill.
Right.
But Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, those are the two pistons of that Saints offense. So. They were blocking like crazy those first 2 weeks. They've kind of come back down to earth over the past couple of games, perhaps because of injuries. They've had 2 major injuries to the interior of the offensive line that could be one of the reasons why they have not run the football as effectively the past couple of weeks. They're definitely scarier than I would have expected them to be offensively coming into the season. I don't think, though, the Chiefs are facing the same offense that we saw absolutely crush both the Panthers and the Cowboys in the first 2 weeks.
Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider. Field, you're the man as always. I appreciate it, sir. We'll see what happens this week, and we'll talk next week, previewing a little bit more in depth of this Saints-Chiefs matchup. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Love it. Looking forward to it. See you, Jason.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider. Great stuff from Field. And I like the, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show in the 11 o'clock hour, and I like the national view of, nationally from Field Yates. It's time to have that conversation of, Chris Jones as Defensive Player of the Year. That absolutely. Whether it's, other guys and injuries or whatever it takes, doesn't matter. Micah Parsons probably missing a few weeks with that high ankle sprain, more than likely moving forward. And if Chris Jones and this defense continues to be at the level and playing at the level they are, and the stats coming from, so far through the first 4 weeks that Chris Jones of the, defensive tackles in the NFL, he's got the highest pass rush win rate, and he's double teamed a lot. And in week 4 specifically, with still 2 games to go, so 4 teams to play, but in week 4 specifically, Chris Jones has the highest pass rush win rate of any player, defensive tackle or defensive end, any player this week 4, with, again, 4 teams yet to play.
Well, and again, the NFL is becoming more and more, yes, the sack numbers, they matter. Don't get me wrong. But they're getting smarter in regards to some of the more underlying numbers, right? What's the more consistent number? Is it the pass rush win rate? Such a hard word to say. Very glad I didn't mess that
That's
up.
why I had to
bad.
say it slow. Pass rush win rate.
And then just the pressure numbers overall. And then obviously you have to have the sack numbers too, but it's no longer just who's the sack leader. Who had the most sacks? That's obviously going to be the DPOY. So this does help Chris Jones, especially in regards to how often he is double-teamed and still how often he wins.
Yeah, and, Field Yates saying, look, there are names that are going to be out there, whether that be Amari Cooper or DeAndre Hopkins, or he mentioned Deontay Johnson. Cooper Kupp has been named, although Field said he doesn't get the sense that Cooper Kupp wants to leave the Rams, or the Rams want to trade him. He's got a couple of years left on his deal. So there you go. We still don't have an update on Rashee Rice. The Chiefs are still going through testing. They don't have a definitive answer at this point, which that's got to be great news, right? Unless Andy Reid is playing coy and saying that, well, we don't have anything official yet. I mean, you could do the stability test there, and that's a pretty good indication of whether or not that thing is torn. Then the MRI, I mean, this is from Andy Reid saying that they are still doing tests on Rashee Rice right now. They don't have anything definitive of what the injury is. Now, maybe, obviously he's not going to play this week. Maybe they're saying we don't want to announce what the injury is until we know the severity of, maybe there's multiple in there that they're looking at to see, what's going on, and then
ACL, MCL, all the
PCL,
L's,
MCL, all of those things. Yeah, so maybe there's not just an ACL or anything like that, or maybe it's not, completely torn, and maybe there's a chance of rehab and coming back and playing, later on this year. No idea, but I am surprised that there is not an update yet on Rashee Rice, and they are, quote, still going through tests with him. That's interesting. I mean, it can only be good news. I'm not saying it's going to be, but the alternative would be we've already done the tests, and we see it's pretty clear as day he's got a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Or, well, we're still going through more tests. We're doing more tests on him. Well, why? You wouldn't have to do more tests. It's like, this is like the positive sign of you don't get a second opinion if the first opinion is what you wanted. This is the first is what we wanted, and so now we're doing more tests to see maybe the severity of what we were hoping for, not worst case scenario to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. Or maybe, again, I'll throw another possibility out there. There's so much swelling that they're just sort of letting that sort of calm down to see what other damage might be in there. I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea what the MRIs and X-rays and all of that would look like. I didn't go to doctor school. Not yet. I'm planning on going to doctor school one day.
Are you?
Can't wait. Oh, yeah. One of these days.
What kind are you going to be?
Just doctor school. Just be a doctor.
General doctor.
That's fine. I don't know that I'm going to be in the military. So, but general doctor, major doctor, probably private doctor. I'm not sure, but doctor school eventually. I'll get around to it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
How hard could it be?
Yeah, you do that. I'll be a lawyer.
You're going to lawyer school?
I'll go to lawyer school.
Yeah, going to go to argument
I guess that
school?
it really is kind of lame that it is just called law school. Like they should have a more
lawyer school. Yeah.
It's not
because right now I'm pre-med. I am pre going to doctor
You're
school.
pre-med.
Yeah, well, I'm pre going to get a degree in medicine.
Okay.
Med.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I haven't got the degree in medicine yet.
That is correct.
Nailed it. See? I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Smart man.
Just go ahead and tell everybody. Well, I mean, I work in radio, but I'm also pre-med.
I'm in pre-law. I'm pre-law.
Yeah.
I can argue with the best of them. I might even be wrong.
But
I'll argue.
I settle out of court once a day. I mean, once a day.
I'm out of
Monday through Friday, once a day, I settle out of court. Okay.
If I had to drink bourbon, take a shot, like a full shot.
Yeah.
Anytime you said settle out of court,
you take at least one shot a day.
At least one a day.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all good. Sometimes that's great. If you're
teething, what's the other word?
If you're teething, just rub a little whiskey or bourbon right on them gums. You know what I mean? Make you feel a little bit better.
Seems smart.
Nature's natural painkiller. You know what I mean? It comes from the earth. There's like corn and other stuff in there. Water.
Rain makes corn. Corn makes whiskey.
And what does whiskey do, Dylan?
You know the lyrics?
What's it make your girl?
You got it.
Feel a little frisky.
There you
Oh,
go.
really?
Come on now.
Oh, is that it rhymes?
It's the lyrics.
Gosh, he's not even country. Luke
I'm
Bryan. I'm Luke Bryan.
I'm more a little rock and roll. You can be a little country.
R.I.P. Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That's right. R.I.P. Dikembe Mutombo. Dikembe Mutombo passed away today, who was a fantastic basketball player, but was an even better person and humanitarian.
Yeah.
He affected a lot of lives on the basketball court, but he impacted hundreds of thousands, not even an exaggeration, hundreds of thousands of lives with what he did in the Congo and building hospitals and schools and doing so many things for his country. Just a fantastic person. He passed away today.
Using basketball to help with this humanitarian, just bringing everyone together across so many different communities. It's horrible because he was just larger than life.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was. He was. You mentioned not just the on the floor, not just the career he had in the NBA, but what he did post for the game of basketball and for the game of life. That's what really missed.
Yeah, story of his mom passing away in the Congo because they didn't have an ambulance available to take her to a hospital that was a ways away, and so she ended up passing away. So the first thing he did was went and built a hospital in that town, in his hometown. along with many other hospitals and schools. Like he used his money to better so many thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. More Zone next. hour. Let's hear from Andy Reid at his Monday press conference getting ready for next Monday night's game against the Nolan Saints. Here is Andy Reid and his, I guess there's a lot of things in here, but Andy Reid with his opening statement as the Chiefs knocked off the Chargers yesterday 17-10. And they will play the Saints on Monday. And the Royals will be playing. Okay, we'll get that in a little bit then. I do want to remind people, though, while Andy Reid is getting ready to talk, at least on this soundbite we're going to play, to remind people coming up tonight, 5 to 8, the 25-year anniversary party at Nick and Jake's. That we'll be at hanging out there. It's going on from 5 to 8, open to the public. There's a couple of Monday Night Football games going on tonight, so 25-year anniversary of flipping the switch to Sports Radio 810 from Sports Radio 1510.
Are you going to avoid me there? Are you going to be like, no, I don't know you outside of work?
What time are you to be there?
Probably about 6.
I think I'll probably leave right before 6. I think that's probably
shoot.
Yeah, I think, yep, that's, I realize right now I have plans.
Jason is not beating the co-host allegations.
5:58, I've got plans. Ugh, what are the odds of that? I mean, that's just unfortunate, really.
We'll get over there at 5:57, just for you.
Plans just changed. Apparently, I got to be there at 5:56. This is weird.
Tough.
This is odd. Typically, they don't change on the fly that quickly.
Leave me your drink tickets.
Do we have drink tickets? Is that what it is? Is it a drink ticket thing?
We might. If we do, leave them.
I think it's probably going to my wife if we have drink tickets. You know, I think that's probably what's going to be the case. That's typically how it goes.
Jason, do you seriously? You're going to choose your wife over your co-host
every time. So your wedding coming up this weekend.
Correct.
Do we have drink tickets or is that an open bar?
Open bar.
Sweet. I don't even drink, but I'm just going to order a bunch of
That's
alcohol.
this weekend?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just going to order.
You're invited, Dylan. What?
I'm kidding.
You're
I'm
going.
Kidding.
I'm not. I don't even.
I'm totally
look,
kidding.
Dylan, I don't drink, but I'm just going to order a ton of alcohol. Just a ton of liquor.
No.
We're just going to look at it?
Yep.
No. That is
money.
I like that idea.
That's money.
Can I get the top shelf stuff too? I've always wanted to know what this tastes like. I guess I'm not going to be able to taste it.
Can we smell it?
You know what? Do you guys have any plants that need watering? I'll just pour this over into the plant. That's fine.
You guys are going to cost me so much money, and I'm going to be livid.
Was that Templeton Rye here? Why don't we water these plants with this one? Or
Templeton Rye is okay.
I'll take 2 shots of Pappy.
That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, let's do that.
I would say Templeton Rye is kind of a. It's fine.
It's fine. All right.
I do like rye though. I'm a big rye guy. Okay. I did have Pappy 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Was it?
Very, very good.
I've heard it wasn't all that great. It's just rare, but I don't know. I haven't tasted it. So.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That's good. Is it worth like the $100 a shot?
The $1,000 a bottle? No, it was not. But I did not pay for it, and so it was even better.
I got a 15-year if you want to give me like $5,000 for it. It's yours. It's yours. Just give me $5K for it. It's yours.
I will run a 5K for it. How about that? That might even be funnier. You watching me run a 5K might actually be better than me paying you 5K. So
probably. All right, here's Andy Reid in his opening statement. We hear from about Rashee Rice as well, but here's Andy Reid.
Felt from the post game interview there. So I thought we did some real nice things defensively, especially in crucial times. The same players that I mentioned yesterday, whether it was Chris Jones on a 4th down, and whether it was a big play on the back end, the linebackers were flying around. Tranquil ends up with the 10 tackles, and I just all the way around, I thought they took Spags' game plan and they executed it and did a great job with that against a team. I mean, you've got to give the Chargers credit. Their quarterback was banged up a bit, and he stuck it out all the way through and did a nice job for him. So which is a big step, I know, for Jim going going forward and building that thing. As far as the offense goes, there were some good things. There are a bunch of things that we've got to work on and get ourselves better at. And I felt like in the first half we were shooting ourselves in the foot continually, whether it was penalties or sacks or interceptions. Those are all self-inflicted wounds that you can't have and play consistent ball. They're drive stoppers. And once you take a step back in this league, the percentage of scoring go way down. So you really got to stay on top of that part and make sure we take care of business there. But the second half, we settled down a little bit, had a big play in there, mixed in there. I thought Xavier showed what he could do. He had a couple other potential opportunities there that we weren't quite able to get to him, but you got a chance to at least see him operate out there and do some nice things as one of the primary receivers. And then Kelsey had a nice day, and it was good to see that. So, which we knew was going to happen somewhere along here. They played quite a bit of zone, so allowed Kels to work in zones, and they weren't squeezing him on that. And then Kareem, getting him into the mix, I thought was good. I mean, we still have confidence in the other two guys too. And Carson's got to hang on to the ball. That's the obvious one. He traditionally hadn't been a fumbler, but we actually saw this with Kareem when he was young. So if that's any positive to it, but he's got to figure that part out and make sure that he hangs on to the football. And then special teams wise, I thought Ariza had a big day with his punts. He did a great job of keeping the ball inside the 20, and special teams in general, I thought played well. So between Nags and Spags and Dave Tobe, I thought they had good plans going into this thing, and Nags was so positive on the sideline, just focusing in on these guys, challenging them to get rid of the mistakes, and good things are going to happen. And then Spags, I thought, did a good job of, after that first drive that they had, just kind of, hey, let's tighten this thing up and keep attacking here and do it just a little bit better. So that took place. And then as far as Rashid's injury goes, we're still testing him on things here, but so I don't have a definite for you right now, but we will get it to you. And he's not going to be available, obviously, this week. So we're going to make sure we get all the tests that need to be done, and then we'll let you know on that. So.
All right, so there you go. I mean, it covered a lot of ground in the first part of that opening statement that he did yesterday after the game was over. But obviously at the end is the one that most everybody was interested in, and that is Rashee Rice still testing and going through all of the tests. There is no definitive right now. He will not play this week. We'll see if he plays again this year, but he said once they have the tests and everything, they'll let us know. But I don't know. Obviously, the longer it takes, the better news it is, because
if you're expecting a worst case scenario, then the longer it takes, the better the news, or else they would have already.
Yeah, just said he's out for the season. He's torn his ACL, and they're looking at the extent of other damage that might have taken place. But they're doing tests and figuring everything out, and there is no definite on one way or another. Andy Reid continued, and Adam Teicher asked him if the rookie Xavier Worthy is ready to take on more.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. I mean, we've got guys here that have experience of playing in the game, so I mean, it's not that he's the only one. Doesn't have to be the only one. So we've got a good group of guys there that we can utilize, and we normally spread the ball around, and that's what we'll continue to strive to do.
Okay. You've got three receivers?
Yeah, go ahead.
You've got three receivers on the practice squad. Do you see any help from any of those guys, whether it's Ross, Washington, or Remigio?
Yeah, you know what? I haven't sat down with Brett yet, so I'm gonna just kind of hold off on that. But he and I'll get together here a little bit later. So,
I mean, they got names that we talked about during training camp and during the preseason games, and those are the names that Adam Teicher just mentioned. We'll see who they go with, and if anything else happens moving forward. Jesse Newell asked for an update on Clyde Edwards-Helaire's future status.
yeah, again, let me get with Brett, and then we'll be able to give you more on that. I don't want to say anything now that I don't have a definite on.
Okay, and just another quick one with the Rice injury. Can you just talk about where you guys stand with Sky Moore and kind of where he's at right now?
Yeah, Sky's a good football player. He's given us some good downs. He had the one drop yesterday on the third down that he knows he has to make, but he's given us some good downs over these 4 games. So we're okay there.
Are they, though? We'll see how much more Sky plays. But again, he had the drop. It's not just that he had the drop on 3rd and 2, and they punted the ball. So, I mean.
How many snaps has he played
this season?
I'm trying to think, because he's played more than you would think, but I don't know. Let me pull the snap counts from the.
Yeah, I mean, I've got these snap counts here. Sky Moore played
13 snaps.
So yeah, 13 snaps in this game. So, I mean, I can go through and look literally right now if you want me to.
No, it's not. I don't know if it's worth it, but
no, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. We'll find out.
I'm surprised at the amount of snaps he's played.
10 against the Ravens.
And this being his first target.
Yep. Luckily, it was only 4 games, so it doesn't take me that long to look these up. 10 against the Ravens.
Okay.
5 against the Bengals.
So he's at 28.
And then last week, he had, against the Falcons, he had 15.
Yeah, that was the one I thought was so he had 43 so far.
Yeah.
43 snaps so far for the Chiefs.
There you go.
I'm guessing
targets.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I guess we've seen him come in on some crucial third downs.
I don't think Patrick Mahomes wants to throw him the ball.
No, I agree, and that's kind of my.
And that's why he threw him the ball, and Patrick Mahomes looked annoyed, but it was like almost like you could have been annoyed with himself for like, why did I throw it there? Like, I know better than that.
But that's where I feel like there's a disconnect, because the coaching staff's clearly putting Sky Moore out there. And Mahomes is clearly not looking his way.
Well, even when Sky Moore was out there a lot last year, Mahomes wasn't looking his way.
But so my point is, where the coaching staff to me is almost like trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, and that's essentially just Sky Moore in the game, unfortunately, right now. Pete Sweeney asked Andy Reid as they continued with the press conference how Juju Smith-Schuster may be about to take on a bigger role.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's played quite a bit up to this point, and I think he's in good shape, Pete. And I don't think that's a problem. Pat's got a lot of trust in him, and he's still a good football player. Yeah.
Hey, Andy, I have 2 questions as well. My first is, in light of Rashid's injury and ahead of the trade deadline, you've been through this a couple times, Andy. Obviously with Kadarius Toney and bringing McCall back last year. Can you just explain what the difficulties are if you do make a trade for a veteran receiver, trying to implement that player into the offense midway through the season? And Kelsey, I have a second question.
Yeah, Nate, it would depend on who the guy is. I mean, that's the obvious. If he's got experience in the offense, then it's not too bad. But it takes somebody a little bit of time to get himself involved and get the terminology down. But it's a lot easier now than it is during training camp when they have to learn a gazillion plays. Here they just have the game week to learn, but getting on the same page with the quarterback and the timing and all that's a bigger issue normally.
And now having a chance to watch Kareem following the game, just what impressed you the most, and where do you think his role could maybe grow with more opportunities?
Yeah, so I thought he ran hard, and I thought he was pretty accurate with the holes that he hit. He did well. He had a couple receptions there, so and an opportunity for even a couple others. We had a screen there called for him. So, I think we all have a lot of trust in Kareem since he had been here, and we kind of know how he's wired, and he's been able to pick stuff up pretty quick. So I think we're okay there increasing him. I'm sure he's pretty sore today, so it's he had a lot of carries there.
Yeah, you go from not playing football to then touching the ball 16 times in the game and blocking. Yeah. Your body gets put through the ringer there for Kareem Hunt. Should point out that Andy Reid said, "Hey, we went through this with Carson Steele." He said, "Went through this with Kareem Hunt early in his career." Well, Kareem Hunt had one fumble in 467 carries for the Chiefs. Carson Steele already has 2 in 4 games. Sam McDowell asked Andy Reid about the game-clinching first down pass to Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, so man coverage slot, and that's a good man play. Very similar to the one we ran the week before. Travis kept it high in the right position there, so that was the biggest difference. Yeah.
I know Patrick checked to that play in Atlanta. Was that a play that you called from the sideline, or was that something he saw again in the defense?
Yeah, so it's an alert play. So it's we've got a couple things that we can do. We give him 2 calls, and he's got the primary call, and then he's got an alert to it. So, and that's the alert.
All right, so back-to-back weeks that they had a call, and Patrick checked into the alert call. Last week it didn't work. This week it did, and as he said, Travis Kelce was running the slant. He ran it higher, and where it was supposed to be. So there you go, Xavier Worthy on that first down. Matt Derrick continued and asked how Wanya Morris has performed and how he did perform against the Chargers.
Yeah, listen, he did some good things. I thought the best thing he did was he battled through, and that's a good player. He was going against the majority of the time, and but he hung in there and battled and did some good things, and he's got a couple things he can learn from too. So, but I thought overall he put up a good fight there.
And this is kind of a big picture philosophical question, but passing yards are down 16 yards a game compared to last year. Run numbers are up a little bit, but this has been kind of a part of a bigger trend. I mean, passing numbers are down more than 40 yards a game from their peak. You've talked about the pendulum at times. I asked you this kind of last year. I'm kind of curious if your attitude or your kind of your position on it has changed. Do you see there's being a pendulum a bit no more towards the defenses, or are there other reasons that you see why offenses are having a hard time right now compared to the past few years?
Yeah, well, I mean, teams are playing a little bit more shell coverage on you and trying not to give up the big shots. I think the pass rush, we've got some good defensive players in this league right now that are really good pass rushers. So you've got to get the ball out on time and quicker. So the routes end up being a little bit shorter the majority of the time. But and then you've also got some pretty good quarterbacks on the other hand, and you want to keep those guys on the bench, and so teams feel that if they run the ball a little bit more, they can keep those guys off the field.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, a lot of other things that go into it as well, but those are 2 pretty big ones with the defensive ability and wanting to keep great quarterbacks on the sideline to ball control and possess the ball and all of that.
I want to go back to Wanya Morris because I think he had a really good game. I really think he's done a nice job. I mean, did you hear his name one time? I don't think I heard his name. No penalties. No. I didn't see many pressures given up by him. The one time I thought it came off his side. It was actually, I think, Noah Gray or Travis. There's a tight end who actually was left one-on-one with an edge rusher, which is, I'm not blaming the tight end because Morris picked up his guy. Yeah. It's been Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor that game was the one that struggled. I thought Wanya had a nice game.
Seren asked Andy Reid to take us through that interception that Mahomes threw in that second series.
Yeah, so he was trying to get the ball to Kelce there just right out of the break, and he didn't see 7 back there, kind of playing almost a gray area. He was tempting you to throw it in there, and we had Xavier over the top. So that probably would end up being the throw if you were going to have a throw there.
Hey, Coach. Brett Veach won his 200th game as a front office member in the NFL yesterday. I think you gave him a game ball in the locker room. I just was curious if you could speak to your respect for Brett and what he's done here in Kansas City.
Yeah, Brett's done a phenomenal job with the personnel, and we appreciate his energy that he brings every day, and the players they see that, and they see the competition and depth that we have on the team, and how Brett goes about his business. Pat ended up presenting him the game ball, and it's saying something when a player does that, more so than either the front office or the coach. So I think that he's got that respect. That's a tough position to be in because you're not only bringing guys in, but you're also letting guys go. So you can be the good cop and the bad cop, and it's a tough position to balance. But he's very real with people and how he goes about his business there. So he's going to let you know kind of where and whys of what he does.
All right, there's Andy Reid. We go to break. Interesting, you said that I want to see the all-22 now on that interception because he said we had Xavier Worthy over the top and said that probably would have been the throw if you're going to throw it. Interesting. We'll see how open Xavier Worthy was and Andy Reid feeling like, hey, man, take that throw, not force it to Kelsey. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, catching up on the breaks for the press conference for Andy Reid. Again, if you're just joining us, I guess no news is good news. Andy Reid saying that they are still doing tests on Rashee Rice's knee. There is no definite on what the injury is. He'll let us know when they get all the information and they're done with all the tests that they are doing on the knee. He will not play this week. So he is definitely out this week. We know that. All of the reports are suspicions of an ACL and the fears of it being an ACL. Again, maybe it's good news that it's taken this long. Maybe those that have gone to doctor school would say that, this is just typical and, it may be a couple of more hours when they announce that it's, what is feared. But you would think if this was already figured out, they wouldn't have to do more tests. Mick Schaefer next. getting it, you're giving it, and we are throwing it for the next 50 minutes or so. 7 different types of smoke. Mick, the Chiefs lose, but did they win the battle and lose the war?
No, they won. They won the battle.
Okay.
No, the war's not lost. Okay. No, come on. I mean,
just,
they're the only
I'm not saying
undefeated
it is.
team left in the AFC.
I'm
right?
not saying it is. I was just asking. Maybe your reaction would have been different. I don't know what your reaction was going to be. You could have said the whole season is over. It doesn't matter if Rashee Rice doesn't play. We might as well, fold up shop and go home and just pay attention to the Royals. I didn't know what your answer was going to be, so I still needed to ask the question.
They're playing the game. We thought they were done playing the game of can Patrick win with less?
I thought it was odd that Patrick tried to do it himself.
Yes, right.
Can I win with less? Let's find out. Oh, you're saying that all of my passes are Rashee Rice's yards after catch? So now I'm not getting any credit for Rashee Rice doing anything? Okay.
Who's next? Who's the next game? Who's he going to try and win with less next?
But it's amazing, right? They go out and they get Xavier Worthy, they get Hollywood Brown, and you're thinking, okay, finally, short up, and now you're looking like, hey, well, we'll take last year's skill guys back, I guess, over what happens.
I mean, hell, they may
happening this year.
Do you trade for MVS? The answer is no, obviously, but
he's probably higher up on the list than people want because they value guys that know their system.
Oh, yeah,
over talent.
Yeah. He's not really talented, but he knows where he's supposed to be with less talent.
He doesn't always get there, but he knows he's supposed to be there.
He knows he messed up and was in the wrong spot.
Like, he was in the wrong spot, but he knew it. We didn't have to explain it several times more to him. It was just like, hey, you knew that. Yeah. And we moved on. We're saving time.
But if he drops the ball, he dropped the ball in the right spot he was supposed to be.
That's right.
Like Sky Moore was in the exact spot he was supposed to be on 3rd and 2 yesterday. He dropped the ball, but he ran the right route. Yeah. Okay, so he did the right thing. I would hate to see somebody in there that runs a different route but catches the ball. So, I mean, you never know with these big questions for this team.
Where are you at with the Justin Ross roller coaster ride? Because
I didn't know I was on it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I didn't know if you were on it or not.
What do you think about Justin Ross? I don't.
It's the first time.
Because he's very polarizing. He's either going to be the greatest wide receiver who's put on a donned Chiefs uniform.
That opinion's not right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Or he's a guy
I think like 2 years of just knowing him and him not seeing the field. I think that jury's out on that one. So
I think Justin Ross might be the example that we're giving in the opposite of MVS and Sky Moore, where I think Justin Ross has talent and will catch the ball, but may not know where he's supposed to be every time.
Nico Remigio, we figured it. Amir Smith-Marset, come on down.
Where is he at? I saw him returning a kick.
He was returning a kick.
I'd like to see those guys before some other guys. I mean, I know what these other guys are. I know what the back of the baseball card is. I know their ceiling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm all for Nico.
What do you think about
some
DeMarcus
active
Robinson?
I'm good. I'd not thought about him for a while, and apparently he's doing some things for the Rams because they also have nobody with that can catch the ball. They're
he's
all
their
hurt, too.
wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah, bring old D-Rob. But how old is D-Rob
at
this point?
What about Maurice French? You think Maurice French, that hype train, could
I'll look him up. Is he the French with the 2 Fs at the beginning? Okay, I remember him. Yeah.
What about Darius Fountain? You think Fountain could swing through?
Let's do it.
Cornell Powell.
This is the city of fountains. What's one more?
Here's DeMarcus Robinson's game log so far. Week 1 against Detroit, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 42 yards. Arizona, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 50 yards. San Francisco, 4 targets, 1 reception, 32 yards. And yesterday against Chicago, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 37 yards.
Yeah,
for DeMarcus Robinson.
I would take it right now.
Yeah,
he is.
The Chiefs are
30.
The Chiefs with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are entering like Bobby Knight zone in one way. In that, like, remember, like the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years of his career is like, I don't need a recruit. I am so good at coaching. I can beat you with anybody, right? 2-star guys. It doesn't matter. He couldn't. I mean, he's a great coach. And the Chiefs are just kind of entering that zone of like, there's not much else out there besides Mahomes and Reed. But I mean, like, look at it. It's even with all these guys out, they're going to be favored against the Saints. And the bye week's going to come. And then, I mean, 49ers are banged up. Maybe there's a loss there. But I mean, I still like this team's chances week in and week out, even when they forfeit a quarter like they did yesterday. They're like, we're just not going to play.
Well, if the wide receiving group is going to go backwards, who best to do it than DeMarcus Robinson?
Yeah.
If you're implying that Bobby Knight, the Bobby Knight era, should clipboards and chairs be worried?
They should be. Well, if you're on the Chargers sideline, we saw a little fit.
Yeah. That's,
I wonder if Justin Herbert likes body language, if he needs good body
well, you've
language
got
out there.
3 out of the 4 quarterbacks the Chiefs have faced have thrown a helmet. Or
wait, who are the other 2?
Lamar,
not Kirk.
Not Kirk. Lamar was demonstrative on the sideline. Burrow tossed the helmet and yelled, and then Herbert slammed the helmet against the bench and then had to have his helmet fixed.
Chase, I remember the Chase throwing at the helmet. I don't know if I remember the Burrow.
Yeah, Burrow was walking away. He was pissed. Maybe not a helmet. Maybe it was just threw something. Because they had video of like,
I really
hey, the
think
Chiefs are 3 of 4 with the quarterbacks.
I really think these teams go in thinking, okay, we're going to beat the Chiefs here finally. They look at the personnel, right? They look at the matchups. They're like, okay, we've got an advantage here. And then the game just goes like Chiefs games go, and they win in the end, and that is very frustrating, I'm sure, for other teams.
The Chiefs are 12-0 now. They were 11-0 according to CBS when they got down 10-0.
Yeah. 10 exactly.
Exactly
10 points exactly.
And they were 11-0. And now they are 12-0. So when they are down 10, they literally have you right where they want you. They lull you into a sense of security.
So wait, like the Bucks?
Only if they're the next one to score being down 10.
I was going to say, so were the Bucks never up exactly 10 points in the Super Bowl?
They were up a lot more than 10.
Well, at one point they were up less than 10.
Yeah.
Right? Had to have been.
The max has to be 10.
The max is 10, okay.
So it's specifically they were down 10.
Gotcha,
Doesn't have to be 10-0. It's just down 10.
I thought it was down.
Just down 10. At any point in the game, down 10.
Because
incredible, though.
The Super Bowl against the 49ers, is it both of them? They were down 10?
Yep. Eagles, they were down 10. Every playoff game in 2019, they were down 10. They were down 24 to Houston.
I was going to say, that
10.
shouldn't count then, the Houston game,
Yeah,
right?
the Houston game counts.
You're right. It wasn't.
It wouldn't,
that's right.
because they were down like 21.
Because if
24, I think
yeah,
it was
24.
24.
It was 27-3
it was 24-0.
24-0.
Oh my
The
God.
Chiefs are
24D.
1-0 when they're down 24-0.
They are.
Got you right where they want you.
24D. But Patrick Mahomes does have a winning record when trailing by double digits, which is also ridiculous.
What I can think of, like 3 blowouts: the Broncos game last year, that Tennessee game in the regular season a few years ago, and then the Super Bowl. Those are 3 blowouts I can think of in the Mahomes era. Maybe there's a couple more I'm missing.
Wins or losses, you mean?
Losses.
Talking about
Losses. Yeah, losses.
Yeah.
There's not too many more wins, but yeah.
There's not many blowout wins
outside
either.
of like maybe 18 and 19.
Yes.
Nobody had caught up to him.
Trying to see what the stat
Yeah,
is
the defense was so bad that
your guy Nick Jacobs put out.
I'm sure it was made up.
He tweeted out.
Well, if you got to scroll through tweets, there's going to be a lot of.
I know.
I'll scroll.
Here it is. Patrick Mahomes is 13-12 in games the Chiefs have trailed by 10 or more points. So 13-12 by 10 or more. The only QB with a winning record in such situations since at least 1950 is Patrick Mahomes.
They have trailed 25 times
by at least
10 or more.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said
in 100 games.
Tom Brady
1 out of every 4 games.
Tom Brady was 36-61 in the games his team trailed by 10 or more points. Mahomes is 13-12, the only quarterback with at least 10 starts that they've trailed by 10 or more points to have a winning record.
I've also gathered the Chiefs probably shouldn't get down by double digits that often because they are rarely up by double digits that much, it feels like.
No, not anymore. Not when you throw out that first quarter yesterday. It was a good effort.
Yeah, but after that first quarter, they won 17-0. So
they did.
You know, why do you got to look at the negative of them trailing 10-0? Why don't you look at the positive? That defense pitched a shutout.
They didn't exactly flip the switch. That second quarter had a drop, had those penalties, and they had to ease their way into a somewhat clean game in the second half.
It is odd though. Like we're talking about, no Rashee Rice for Patrick Mahomes, and he went. After Rashee Rice got injured, so after that interception, he was 17 of 27, 205 yards and a touchdown, which is a 100 quarterback rating. Without Rashee Rice, without the he's just going to throw the ball short,
right?
And
without yardage wise, without Rice.
It was his best game, but yet one of his worst because I have no idea what he was doing half the time. Like the Chargers were baiting him into escaping to his right.
Yeah,
they were forcing everything inside, and then they were running the stunt to where then they would have somebody with outside contain, and so he would see the flow to the inside and then to escape to his right, and oh wait, there's a guy now right in my face. And he did it time after time after time. And there were a couple of touchdowns that were missed. Justin Watson right down the middle was a touchdown. Andy Reid saying in his press conference today on the interception that said that, well, he didn't see 7 back there with Kels. He was kind of in a gray area. He said we had Xavier over the top. That probably would have been the throw if you're going to throw it.
I was talking yesterday. It's almost, I wonder if like he is too good at progressing through reads, because rarely do we see, okay, shotgun snap, 3-step, drop, hit that back foot and throw, right? The timing that all these routes are timed to be, you're breaking open at that point. He gets back there. We saw it yesterday. So many, they were looking for that deep ball early. He was looking to, I mean, so many pump fakes, and then he'll step up. Eyes will go down because the pocket's collapsing. He'll look for a release area, go out, then eyes back up looking for it. And it seems like that's the pattern just about every throw, to where like nothing is ever in time. And I wonder if it's like, maybe get back to your roots of like, all right, this is my number one target. Unless he is just, there's a guy draped all over him. I've got a cannon and I'm very accurate. I'm gonna throw it in there. I'm gonna give him the ball.
I think it feels like there's more of a. It almost feels like a lack of trust of the offensive line, that I get back there and my first read isn't there. He's not like, I don't want to call him, you know, what the defensive coordinator a couple of years ago called him, like, oh, he's a street ball player. First read isn't there, then he's just going to run around. I don't think it's that. I think if he had a faith in the offensive line, I think he would stay in the pocket and fun. I think he just expects there to be pressure that quickly. So I look here, I look there, it's not open. Yeah. I got to get out and move. I got to get out of here because I'm about to get sacked.
I feel like he spends too much time in the pocket. I feel that ball should be out a lot earlier than it is a lot of times. And when he does get it out, right, it's that quick little out or whatever, those first 15 plays that are scripted, which I don't know why you don't script the first 100 plays, and because they always work so well. Yesterday, notwithstanding, it feels like the offense hums a little bit more.
I think it's a good point, though, because I was thinking the same thing after the game. The offensive line's done a pretty good job, I think, for the most part. But Mahomes is acting like it's collapsing right away. And you're right. He kept rolling right to the right every single time when there was so much time that he had in the pocket. He was actually rolling into pressure. It was befuddling. It made no sense to me. And Andy talked about it after the Falcons game. He said he's going to look back and realize he had more time in the pocket than he really had. I'm paraphrasing that. But it was along the lines of he actually had good pockets and he kept breaking out too early. Well, he did it again last week against the Chargers. I don't understand this because it's not Kingsley. Kingsley was getting beat like a horse.
A drum.
Who beats horses?
Let's go with
I
drum.
don't know.
Well, you're beating a dead horse if you want to keep talking about Juwan Taylor and penalties. It's just going to happen all season long, you know. But you can beat a drum, you know.
Why would you beat a horse, Sterling?
I love horses.
Well,
okay?
only if it's dead.
Well,
even when it's dead, I want to beat a dead horse.
Well, people do tell you to stop beating a dead horse.
That's right. They tell you to stop doing it. So
yeah, that's right.
Don't beat a dead horse whether the heart's beating or not.
Yeah, why do you even start beating a dead horse?
Okay, so
like, what's the point?
Petting horses. Why does he keep petting horses and going to the right? Because the pocket.
I don't want to pet a dead horse either.
The horse is alive.
Pretty bird.
Pretty bird.
You sold Petey? He didn't have a head. I took care of it. Pretty bird. Pretty bird.
Probably want a cracker?
The Royals are in the postseason, though, Mick. The Royals are in the postseason.
Baseball town.
Tomorrow, they will. I got my 10-year anniversary shirt on of We Own the Pennant. Last time they played the Orioles in the postseason, 2014, when they won that series. Wearing that.
They ever lost a postseason game in Baltimore?
In ever.
I don't think they
have. It hasn't happened in
They
ever.
never played them in like the 70s or anything, did they?
Hasn't happened in ever.
Listen, the last 3 times the Royals have made the playoffs, they've gone all the way to the World Series. 2 of those times they've won it.
That's a good point.
They are very efficient in making the playoffs.
Yeah, you may not go very often, but when you go and win the whole thing.
You go win the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like Jim Calhoun or Tom Izzo. The Rays are Tom Izzo.
Yeah.
The Royals, hopefully, are Jim Calhoun. Jim Calhoun went to 5 Final Fours and won 4 championships. Tom Izzo's gone to 12 Final Fours and has 1 championship. Yep. So, I mean, it's like, who do you want to be? Well, you got the 12 of them. Yeah, but I like those championships are pretty cool. You know, the Rays, although the Rays don't even have the Izzo championship, but they went to the playoffs a lot, where the Royals, it's like, you know, they don't go to the playoffs hardly ever. Well, you know what? In the last decade, they went to the playoffs 30% of the time. 30% of the
Counting
time in
this
the
year,
last
sure,
decade.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well,
Last 10
actually,
years.
this would be the 11th year.
No, it wouldn't. Nope, it would not.
There's that inclusive year. This would be the 11th year.
No inclusive. I'm not inclusive.
Okay.
This is not an
You're
inclusive.
not-
no,
not an inclusive show.
not an inclusive show. We're doing 10 years. This is a decade. This is what a real decade is. 14 to 14 is a decade. That's 10 years, Mick. I don't care what you say.
It is 10 years,
It's
but
10
11
years.
seasons.
24 minus 14. What's that?
10.
Exact. Thank you. That's
Not
10.
the math we're doing, though.
What's up? I've carried the one. I've divided by the remainder, and I've took it to the second power. It's 10.
Should we count on our hands?
Sure.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Back to my first
24.
thumb again.
24. 24.
24.
24.
Nailed
right
it.
there. 24. 10 years.
I'll give you that. 3 out of 10.
Thank you.
Let's
I
go.
appreciate it. 30% of the time. They make the playoffs 100% of the time.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I can't wait. Baseball, we've talked a little bit about this, but baseball playoffs are so much better than the football postseason just because it's every day.
I agree.
And I mean, it feels like, oh, God, they made the postseason. Let's take a week and a half off and talk about it forever. No.
And then you get 3
They're in
hours.
Baltimore now.
You talk about it for a week, and then you get 3 hours of the game.
Yeah.
Then hopefully you talk about it for a week.
For the next 2 or 3 days,
3
you
hours.
digest the last
Yep.
game, and then you start looking ahead to the next game, and we just say stupid stuff for a week.
So tomorrow,
Here we have
talk
less
about
than
it.
24 hours to say
Yeah.
stupid stuff. They're
Yes.
starting another game already.
That's right. So tomorrow we'll get ready for that game. We'll have 3 hours of game to watch, and then we'll get ready for the next game the very next day.
21 hours later, we're doing it again.
Yes. So me, Sterling, Jack, and Dylan all weighed in on this. It's 2 questions, yes or no question. Vinny Pasquantino related, both of them, Mick.
Yeah.
Vinny Pasquantino is on the wild card roster.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is Vinny Pasquantino is in the lineup tomorrow.
Okay, so we don't know the roster yet. It has not come out. So we're just
They're
predicting.
going to announce it tomorrow
Okay.
because Matt Quattrero, we can play this clip again if we want to.
I will say yes still to that first question.
So
Okay.
yes to the first one. Let's play the clip of Matt Quattrero, and then I'll have you answer the second one. This is Q on MLB Radio. Yesterday after the game, he went on the MLB Network radio show, and he was asked 2 questions, 2-part question. 1, is Vinny going to be on the wild card roster? And 2, what's your starting staff look like for these 3 games? But he starts with the conversation about Vinny Pasquantino. So there you go. So you heard Matt Quattrero along with the heavy breathing by whoever the host was there during the interview. I don't know, maybe clean out the pathway on the nose a little bit because there was some nose whistling going on. Nose whistling. But they're waiting until tomorrow to announce the wild card roster because, as he said, when they get to Baltimore, he said yesterday, when we get to Baltimore, he's going to take live batting practice again. And how he wakes up on Tuesday, how he feels.
Refresh me. Have we expanded the postseason roster? Still 26?
Well,
okay.
it's now
There's
decreasing.
so many things I don't remember from 9 years ago.
Well, it's decreasing because it was 28 as of yesterday.
Yes.
Now they're going down to 26.
I think absolutely he's on the roster.
Okay. Is he
and what's the
starting?
next?
Is he in the lineup tomorrow night?
I don't think. I mean, if you put him on the roster, it's a 3-game series. 2 if you don't. I mean, 2 if nobody. If you do well, if you do bad, whatever. You don't have time to mess around, right? I think he is in the lineup. Right field is 318. All he does is try to pull the baseball. He's one of the top RBI guys in baseball. I don't think you mess around. He's your DH, and Salvi's your first baseman, and Freddie's at the dish. And honestly, I think that might be the best combination of everything.
Salvi's behind the dish. Gurriel's your first baseman because Freddie Fermin's bat has been dreadful.
Buns.
It's been dreadful. So I go Salvi catching,
We'll live with
Gurriel at first, and Vinny. You, me, and Dylan agree. We both said yes to both of them. Jack and Sterling said on the roster, but not playing tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he maybe pinch hits tomorrow.
Available to pinch hit, but not starting.
Not to start.
I say if he's on the roster, you start him.
I say
if he's good enough to be on the roster, he's good enough.
If he's good enough to play Wednesday, he's going to play Tuesday.
And if he's good enough to pinch hit, why wouldn't he be good enough to bat 4 times?
Put him in there. And your offense, your lineup is in dire need of that bat.
And you're facing more than likely 3 right-handed pitchers on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If this was the Astros, I might feel different since 2 of the 3 guys are lefties for the Astros. But it ain't the Astros. Thank you, White Sox. Appreciate you, brother. How about those Tigers backing into the playoffs? All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We got Learn Funniest Pass next. craftsmanship. Visit Citywide Remodelers at citywideremodelers.com. We got a dream closet for my wife. We got the washer and dryer moved to a different room, and we got a mud room, all with Citywide Remodelers. So we certainly appreciate them and what they did for us and creating that. It was awesome work. It is time for a little Learn Funniest Best. Jason Anderson, Sterling Holmes, Mick Schaefer, Dylan Michaels. Sterling, what's the update for the Braves and Mets game right now?
It is
huge implications with the Royals.
2-0 Braves
Okay.
over the Mets in the 6th. The Mets had guys on second and third, 2 outs, and the Braves were able to get out of it.
There you go. The Royals will play tomorrow 3:08 against the Orioles. You can hear that right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sarin will be on directly after the game tomorrow. We will be on from 10 to 2 tomorrow. So count
Sounds
it.
good.
Yep. We're changing a lot of things around. We'll be on 10 to 2. So mark your calendars and set
No
your,
Chiefs works out. You can
set
just be a
your DVR.
4-hour pregame show.
That's exactly right. Just 10 to 2, 4-hour pregame show, mixing in an hour of Adam Teicher. Talking Royals and
Talk to
Orioles.
Royals the whole
Giving
time,
his
yes.
thoughts on the Royals and what he thinks about them. All right, let's get some Learn Funniest Best. We go around the room what we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. What I learned was, and this is, I didn't know this was in the Kansas City area. So little man and me yesterday, we are hanging out in the morning and trying to get some work in with some baseball. And we go to this place called the Baseball Lab yesterday morning that is now in Kansas City.
That's where Albert Pujols was born.
That's right.
That's where they made him.
Actually, it's where Bobby
That's where they
Witt.
made him.
It's where Bobby Witt was
Okay.
born. Let's be honest. The football
Well,
lab.
he's not
is where,
from here. I'm picking a guy from here.
Oh, that makes total sense. Good
Yeah.
call. Well, he's technically from the Dominican, but I mean, if we really want to be, do we want to be that? He's from the Dominican.
Yeah,
So,
and he was in New York, I think, too, for a
was he
while.
Born here. I mean, yeah, it's fine.
Just shut up.
No big
You
deal.
had a
Who
great
cares?
comment. You've ruined it.
Well, whatever. Joe Carter. Let's just. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Rick Sutcliffe was born in the
Rick was,
baseball
yes.
lab. There it is. That
It
Van
was.
Horn fella. But we went there yesterday, man, and learned that in our backyard, and they aren't open yet. So we stopped by, and they're like, yeah, you can come and check the place out. And so we looked at it, have an open house coming up this week. So we were there, and I didn't realize in our backyard. So we hear about all these things with like the Royals and major league teams. So they had the hitting lab that's got the I think it's the iPitch spin ball that has all the different pitches that you can throw. They can set it for like Garrett Cole's curveball or like Reagan's. You can program and it mimics the spin rate and the velocity of all that, so you can specifically face that pitcher. They've got the eye hack attack pitch sequencing that goes on with it as well. They got the motion capture, so like helping Everett work on getting his swing on plane as an 8-year-old, right? I mean, just ridiculous biomechanics stuff and analysis, and the pitching lab, which I know my son loves pitching, and so they can help develop pitch design and the shape of a pitch, and it's all like right here. And so I'm like, dude, I can't imagine what baseball players today and younger youth growing up, because I certainly didn't have access to that. Sterling, you didn't. Dylan, we didn't have access to that. And now you got youth kids that are like 8 years old that are going to be looking at the biomechanics of the swing to get on plane and to get the correct swing and have. By the way, the pitching part I think is pretty important, because the correct mechanics of actually throwing a pitch for youth is, I think, pretty important. But it's got like all of the great stuff that we see with like the major league teams is right here, dude. It was
So they're
awesome.
taking your money now. They're going to be taking
They are
your money.
taking every dollar that's in the bank account. They are going to be taking.
Who are you
going
to hit off of? Jamie Moyer's fastball.
Henry Rowan Gardner's
You
fastball.
can go to any batting cage and find Jamie Moore's fastball.
That's exactly right. Yes, I don't know. It's a great question. Who should my son stand in there one time for a Max Scherzer fastball? Just stand in the box one time.
Paul Skeens, what are we doing?
That's a good point. Yeah,
tell him
Paul
to grow
Skeens,
up. If you're going to go for it, go for it.
I think his pants might be soiled if he stood in there against that. So yeah, they were saying that it was awesome. So we got to look around the place and like, yeah, we have an open house on Tuesday. It's when we open. I'm like, you're not even open yet? I'm like, no, we get rolling on Tuesday. So I know
Sounds
wherever.
maybe like a testimonial.
I wish. I wish.
Should be your next move.
I know where Little Man and I will be this winter. I know that.
I
so.
would do it too. Because I just
Sterling, you
want
want to come?
out.
You wanna-
I'll strike out.
Let's
by
go.
all
I
of you
might.
guys.
I might as well.
Let's go.
I would like to see this.
Let's go. Well, Little Man has practice on Tuesday. So
Well,
we
not
can't
this
go on
weekend.
Tuesday.
I'm getting married.
What about Wednesday?
We should do a bet, like between all of us, who has the best average out of 10 pitches from
Let's
a
do it
certain pitch.
Dylan, you pitched in college. That doesn't count.
No, that's pitching. I didn't hit.
Next weekend, let's do it. Or next week, I'm in.
Okay. All right. Mick, you in?
Sure, absolutely. I don't
Next
say no to
week, yeah.
anything.
All right.
We're going to jump off a cliff. You in?
Absolutely. Come on.
I was lying. We're not going to jump off a
Oh.
cliff. You are.
You could do that. You have a parachute on or bungee or
Well,
something
how
like
tall
that.
is the cliff? It could be like water. It could be
Mhm.
fun.
A guy named Cliff.
We're going to jump off of Cliff
My
shoulders
uncle.
into the
I'll
water.
get my Uncle Cliff here, and
Let's
we'll.
go.
We're going to jump off his shoulders
He's a big
into the
man.
water.
He's like 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
We could do
That could hurt.
Yeah, that could hurt.
Landon.
Yeah.
So let's go next week. Baseball lab. We're going there.
Yes, please.
All right. Let's do it. Sterling, what'd you learn?
So
besides that,
Stetson University
Oh, yes.
is in
There we go.
is in Florida.
What town's it in?
Stetson.
It's in DeLand.
Oh, that's right.
which is Spanish for the land.
The
yeah,
land.
Yeah. So and it's changed to Stetson, and I was like, it's funny because they're the Stetson Hatters, which is hilarious because Stetson is a cowboy hat, right? Well, here's where it gets fun. John B. Stetson, the well-known hat manufacturer who made a generous donation to the university, got the university changed from DeLand University to Stetson University 6 years after its inception. And then they changed it to the Stetson Hatters. Now, here's a little fun fact about John B. Stetson. Not only was he just this hat manufacturer who now Stetson cowboy hats are throughout the world,
Sure.
he created the cowboy hat. And not only that, he also gave generous donations to Temple University, not just Stetson University.
Okay.
Another crazy fact here.
boy.
Let-
You're
let's-
really-
Did he
let's-
invent the
really
temple
amped.
too?
He did.
Did he name it?
He had tuberculosis. Okay, he had TB.
Did he invent the part of your head called the temple?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He could have. That's a
He
possible.
just named the temple.
He was gonna die because he had TB when he was like 20.
And when you like,
But then
hit
he
it, you're like,
created the cowboy
"Ows."
hat.
And he
He went all the way to explore the American West, including going to the top of Pikes Peak, and he lived to 75. And also at one point, he lived in St. Joe.
Oh, here we go.
How about that? Yeah.
This is your new hero.
Clearly.
John B. Stetson.
You spent the last 4 breaks telling us
Look at that.
information
Well,
about
of course, look at that hat.
John B.
How would I
Stetson.
not be a fan? Let's hopefully you know when you
Yeah,
get
that's not the traditional cowboy hat.
No, but
Yeah.
that was one of the originals.
Should we wear a Stetson cowboy hat to the baseball lab? Should we do that?
Sure. Swing the cowboy hats on.
Mick, what'd you learn?
I learned that Eric Stone Street has a picture of himself cheering on the Chiefs from back in the day inside of his suite at Arrowhead. And I guess they have this process of like when you have a lot of money, you buy a suite. They're like, what kind of artwork you want in there? He's like, well, I remember I saw Joe Valerio catch a touchdown pass right in front of me one year, and they had it in their system. They put in the metadata or whatever, and it turned out this picture not only of Joe Valerio catching the touchdown pass, but there he is, like 4 or 5 rows up, Eric Stone Street in his youth, cheering on Joe Valerio catching a touchdown, and he's in a green jacket. He's like, I have no idea why I wore a green jacket that day. I'm so mad at that, but that portrait is now up in his suite.
Went to Piper High School.
He
there at
did.
Stone Street.
He did.
He was created in a lab here. Is that right? The comedy lab?
Was
Acting
Comedy
lab?
Lab. Yeah.
Acting lab?
Acting lab.
With the green jacket, in case people said, where's Eric Stone Street in that picture? Oh, he's the one in the green
I
jacket.
think you might knew him back then.
Maybe he won
It
the
was
Masters
the
and
90s.
people didn't realize. Dylan, what'd you learn?
I learned that I am officially old because Buster Olney is now officially today the
Buster
director.
Posey.
Oh my goodness, boy, I'm batting 1,000
Start-
on these.
you're good. You're good. Start again.
Buster
both,
Posey.
both do baseball.
All right, we're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
start
right.
this over. I am old because I have learned today that Buster Posey is the head of baseball, the president of baseball operations. And again, he was just
Where?
playing
For what
in the
team?
World Series, what it
Giants.
seems like
Okay.
almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly
10 years
Yeah.
ago, yeah. Mick would disagree. He would say 11 years ago that they played
No,
in the World
I
Series.
would
No,
say
you said it was
10
11
years ago.
You said it was
I
11.
would say this is the 11th season. Counting that one.
The funniest for you, Sterling.
Well, which team is Buster Olney taking over?
Vanderbilt. Baseball.
Fantasy
no,
team?
He is still at ESPN.
Okay.
Not even his son's fantasy team.
He will not be the general manager of any college basketball
I
team.
wish we had time, but you've heard the Buster Olney fantasy baseball story.
No.
His
I hear we don't have time, though.
His son has. Well, we're gonna make time. I'll just skip my funniest and best. Doesn't matter. His son has a fantasy baseball team and was asking about a certain player and the injury. And Buster Olney was in the city that day and covering that team, and so he talked to him and asked him about what was going on. And after it was over, he called his son. He's like, "Hey, he just told me this and this, and this is going to be the timetable." And his son goes, "Well, CBS Sports said he's returning next week."
That's pretty good.
And Buster Olney was like,
All right,
That's
right.
fine.
That's how kids work. That's how
fine.
kids work.
That's every kid. You want to
That's
know how
every
kids
kid.
are? That's how kids are. Funniest, Sterling.
Justin Herbert QB sneaking while being completely banged up. The Chiefs will not QB sneak a healthy Mahomes, but Justin Herbert, who was banged up with 2 offensive linemen out, they go, you know what? Go ahead, pal.
Yeah.
Go have some fun.
Mahomes, we don't want you QB sneaking, but go dive in to try to tackle somebody on an interception. Mick, what was the funniest for you?
The funniest was that shot of the 2 Alabama players in the game, and they have the eye black, right, that goes all across their nose, and one says, oh gosh, Psalms 18:45 or something like that. The other one says, kill everybody. And I think it was Ryan Williams, right? The
Ryan
kid,
Williams.
right? Yes.
Tweet
Just
that.
says, kill everybody, which is a great reference. I don't know if he's seen the program or if he just wants to kill everybody, but a great reference, and it's the duality of man right there. And it's a great camera shot. Zoomed in, you had the one guy who
Great,
Psalms, and I looked up the verse, but I can't find it now. And then
Said,
you have
kill everybody.
kill everybody. It did not say kill everybody.
I didn't know. It's about Sodom and Gomorrah. Dylan, funniest for you?
Everyone has seen it. The Auburn yell leader doing the triple backflip right into an Oklahoma player that's running out of the tunnel.
That was
before
really
the
good.
game. It
Total
was all
blindside
time.
block.
Some guy said he hit all the combo moves before it. It's one of the best tweets. Bum chillups.
Amazing. All right, my funniest yesterday after the game, the Colts game, I should say, Joe Flacco being interviewed and Joe Flacco taking over for an injured Anthony Richardson, and this little quick interaction on the field.
That is
exactly
hilarious.
Right. No chance. That guy thinks I'm cool. Best for you, Mick?
Best for me is Army. The last 3 weeks has beaten Florida Atlantic, Rice, and Temple.
Stetson guy.
Do you know the significance of that?
Florida Atlantic. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I do.
All 3 Owls that are in FBS football, they have played the last 3 weeks, and they have beaten them. Florida Atlantic, Rice, and Temple.
I thought you were going F-A-R-T.
Oh, no,
Florida
no.
Atlantic.
That's what
Rice,
you thought I was saying.
Temple. What's the significance of F-A-R-T?
No, I'm cleaner than that. The Owls. It's all the Owls.
How about that? They beat
all the Owls.
Every
3 weeks
Owls.
in a row.
Now we can find out how many licks it takes to get the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. The best for you, Dylan.
The best for me, Jason Benetti going from the outhouse to the penthouse. He was the Chicago White Sox announcer last year.
Yep.
This year he's the Detroit Tigers. He's going to the playoffs.
Best for me, my daughter's first save in soccer. It was awesome diving save. It was cool.
They let him have goalies?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That young?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
High-level soccer league going on.
Yes,
there.
exactly. That's right.
Royals in the playoffs.
There you go. That's what it is.
Royals in the playoffs.
There you go. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap the show next. All right, wrapping up the show. Mick, you going to be at Nick and Jake's tonight?
Absolutely. I'm going to arrive after the once Sterling leaves.
Oh, so we have like a nice little three-way.
Whoa. Wait, that's what's going on? Well, that's what's going on, Nick and Jake's?
I'll be there after. I'm going to be there from 5 to 6, hanging out there for an hour.
I'll go from 6 to 7, and you can be there from 7 to 8. So it's a three.
The three of us will be there at different times.
At different times.
There's different ways to say that, bud.
Yeah, there's 3 different ways
well,
to say
how
that.
would you say that?
Well, not like that. We're just all going to avoid
A
each other. How
single
about
way.
that?
A single way.
We'll all avoid each other, which is the exact opposite of what you said.
We may or may not overlap, but we'll be at Nick and Jake's tonight.